It's the opposite.
High fly ball, deep left field. Oh, 27 does it again.
God, Fernando Tatis Jr. with a 2-run shot has the Padres on the board. Ball and 2 strikes to Shohei here. Oh,
Got it! 33!
Oh, wow. Where did that one go? That's his 11th home run.
Driven out to deep center field. Going back, Springer, turning, looking, see ya! Oh, what a shot by Judge! The Yankees lead 1-0.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 26 of the Free Baseball Podcast presented by theathleteshub.org. I said it right this time, Jake. I said it right. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to go over the month in review of July. Now that it is, of course, August 1st. Some trade deadline happenings from today because the previous days, not really much of anything really happened. So I guess we'll kick it off like we always do with some hot weeks. Starting off, AL side. Anthony Santander of the Baltimore Orioles, at 25 plate appearances, hit .478, 520 on base, .913 slug, scored 4 times, 3 dingers, 6 RBIs on the season. He's hitting .257 with .339 on base, slugging .457, scored 47 times, got 19 home runs, 56 RBIs with a 125 WRC plus. That's a really good season so far.
Yeah, we have never talked about Santander. I love putting guys in the hot weeks that we haven't covered yet. And this is a guy who's a switch hitter. He doesn't really get talked about sort of anywhere, but he's been really solid, especially for an Orioles team that has really not been as bad as everybody expected. I love when we get to this point in the season where there's only 2 months left, so you can start seeing like the end of season lines sort of start to come into focus. Looking like Santander is going to get close to 30 home runs, 25% better than league average. But yeah, he's really solid. His hot week was pretty good. I mean, .478 is pretty good no matter how many games that you're playing for.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a switch hitter just being 25% above league average is just so valuable. I mean, obviously, like switch hitting doesn't inherently provide more value, but it's always super interesting to me to see a switch hitter like being extra good, because I feel like it does provide a little bit of extra value because it helps you, like, I don't know, set the lineup better. Like he can force the hand of different of managers, bringing in different relievers and stuff like that. I don't know. I just feel like switch hitting is cool. And when a guy's good at it, it really impresses me. Especially
a switch hitter like Santander who hits for a lot of power. You don't really see a lot of guys like outside of like, Santana for his stretch and like Lindor. Very recently, a lot of switch hitters are just kind of like put the ball in play kind of guys. Like Santander's got 19 home runs. I mean, he's got a lot of pop. Staying in the AL, of course, the Kansas City Royals made one start this time. It's Brady Singer of the Kansas City Royals. Made a start on the 28th against the Yankees. Went 7 innings pitched. Just gave up the 1 hit, 1 walk, no earned. 10 strikeouts for a guy who isn't like a crazy strikeout guy, or wasn't coming into the league, but he's really ramped it up. He is now for sure. Got 14 whiffs in that game for a 38.4 CSW. That is elite, of course. So, Brady Singer tearing up the big and bad Yankees on the season. 4-3, 84 2/3 innings pitched with 3.51 ERA, a 1.13 whip, 26.6 K percent. He is really good. Of course, I'll always kind of big up any Royals players that are good, because there just aren't that many of them outside of our favorite Italians, of course. But Brady Singer, really good season so far. Really good start against the Yankees, and that's a really good lineup to do it against. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that he's breaking out right now is very cool. He's only 25, so he's still got time to get better. But that start against the Yankees followed a start where he took down the Rays and he went 6 innings and struck out 12. So that's 22 strikeouts across his last 2 starts, which is like, he can get strikeouts. Like I think his season high was 9 before this, but like to top that in back-to-back starts, especially like following up a 12 strikeout start against one of the best offenses in baseball, he's
he's figuring something out, and I think it has to do with like him being able to place his sinker where he wants it and then using his slider to just get a ton of whiffs. It had 12 in that start against the Rays, and then it had 10 in that start against the Yankees. When you're getting double-digit whiffs, that's super elite. That's really good. Like even if you're getting 5 whiffs on a pitch, that's really solid. So double digits is like insane. So that slider, he's been feeling it super strong recently, and it's propelled him. I don't know. That's crazy. He shut down the Yankees so easily. And it'll be interesting to see if he can keep this up. But like you said, his ERA is down to 3.5 now. He's never had it below 4 for a season. Cool to see him breaking out. The Royals have never really done well with pitching development. So if they can have one success in that department, I think it'll go a long way for helping out their future if they can figure out the right formula to turn these young starters into frontline starters.
Yeah, I like Singer a lot just because his peripheral numbers match up like almost completely in sync with what he's doing on the field. Like I think his ERA is 3.51. He's got like a 3.58 FIP, and that put away percent on his slider has just been rising and rising and rising. Or excuse me, the put away percent's been rising and the whiff percent's been rising. He's literally up from last season, 29.1% whiff percentage. This season on his slider, 39.2%. So like 10%, a little over 10% on the slider. And that put away percent's also climbed over 6%. So Brady Singer hopefully is breaking out right before our eyes. The Royals kind of been mired kind of down in the doldrums since they won the World Series, and hopefully Brady Singer can get them back into some semblance of contention, or lead the way with all their young talent they've stockpiled from being bad for being bad since 2015, I guess. Yeah, moving on. We have Players of the Week because they haven't announced Players of the Month. MLB, please announce the Players of the Month. Oh my god!
Yeah, you got like an hour before we start getting pissed.
I know. Like we make the run. Like Jake makes the rundown. He does it. I was gonna say we make the rundown. Jake makes the rundown. And then we're trying to figure out like Players of the Week literally 2 minutes before the show comes on.
Yeah.
And Players of the Month haven't come out yet. Players of the Week have
Twitter.
Yeah, Players of the Week have though. Of course, AL Player of the Week, Aaron Judge, AL MVP right now. If you ended the season, not really even close to anybody else. He's hitting 348 on this. Hitting 348 for the week, not on the season. 483 on base with a 1,000 even slug. Scored 7 times, 5 dingers. One of those was a walk-off. 10 RBIs, 1 steal in there. And on the season, hitting 297, 383 on base, 671 slug. He scored 87 times. He has I believe it's leading all of baseball easily, is 42 home runs, 91 RBIs, 10 steals, 191 WRC plus, almost at that 200 threshold. What's there to say? He's good. He's good. Yankees might not give him $1 kajillion, but someone will. Aaron Judge is a freak.
Who else? Who else would have had Player of the Week? It's crazy what he's doing. Yeah, those 42 home runs lead baseball by far. I think second place is Schwarber with 33.
Yeah, I think it was by like at one point it was 7. I know that was the number.
Now it's 9. Yeah, just absolutely bonkers. I didn't think that he would ever do this, and the more that he keeps going off, the more I just want to do harm to myself for not drafting him in fantasy when the hardest part, I've talked about this on the podcast already, the hardest part for me to get over is the fact that I had him ranked above guys and then still didn't take him. I didn't trust my own rankings, and now it's just it's so hard. But luckily took first place for a day in my home league, so it's starting to turn around, looking for that quad Pete this year. But the craziest part, like I was saying with Santander, it's nice when the end of season numbers start to come into focus. Judge's line would just be like a crazy good season already if the season just ended today with 2 more months to go. Like 42 home runs, batting 297 with 10 steals, over 90 RBI. Like that's an incredible season in and of itself, and he's played for 2/3 of the season. It's just so bonkers what he is doing. I want him to keep it up, but also I want Shohei to win MVP because he deserves it no matter what. So it's going to be really hard for voters not to vote for him, especially if he gets to 65 home runs or something.
Yeah.
God. And I mean, right now it looks like he could hit 70 the way he's been going recently. It's back-to-back Players of the Week. I think he's hit 10 home runs across the last 2 weeks, which is insane. Just, I don't know. I thought he would slow down after the All-Star break, and he's come out even hotter than he was going in.
Yeah. like you said, I mean, it already would be a pretty ridiculous line if you ended the season now. Judge, so good, man. Like, there's just not much to say about this guy.
Talking about him all year.
I think he was on pace at one point to actually hit 66 or 67, and he's hit like 2 or 3 more since they had that tweet like a couple days ago.
I can do the pace real quick. I'm pretty fast at it.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb. Go ahead and pull that up. See if you can find that before we switch to
so
this
the
next
Yankees
guy.
have played 103 games. So if you multiply his home runs by 162 and then divide by 103. Okay, that was the wrong number. 62 times 162 divided by 103. Okay, I am doing the math. I did 62 times 162, didn't I? He's on pace for 66.
There you go. So he's on pace for 66 home runs. If he did, that would be the first 60 home run season since Barry Bonds did it in 2003? It was either 2000.
Would be the first in American League history to surpass 61.
Just crazy. Is that true, or did?
Yeah, because everybody loves saying like, oh, like this is going to be the first non-steroid like 60 home run season in like since Roger Maris, but I'm just like, okay, that's not the qualifier you need to use because there's literally not a 60 home run season other than Roger Maris in the American League since 1961 because Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds were all in the National League. Nobody else has touched 60 home runs. Yeah, that
is true. Roger Maris is the only other one, of course, Yankee home run leader for a single season, and Aaron Judge is on pace to beat that. Our NL player of the week is the Diamondbacks, Merrill Kelly. Recently extended Merrill Kelly, actually. On the 25th, he made a start against the San Francisco Giants. Beloved San Francisco Giants of my co-host Jake Crumpler. He went 8 innings pitched, gave up 3 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts in that one, got 10 whiffs for 33.3% CSW. And then on the 31st yesterday, against the Atlanta Braves, world champion Atlanta Braves, he went 7 innings pitched, gave up 3 again, no earned, and 2 walks this time, 8 strikeouts, 15 whiffs this time for a 27.5% CSW. On the season, he has thrown 125.1 innings pitched. He's got a 2.87 ERA, which is pretty underrated, 1.13 whip, and a 20.7% K percent. Merrill Kelly, a really underrated guy, playing in bad teams, so you just don't hear about him very much. But he's been a pretty reliable starter for a year or two now.
Just the whole season, he's been really good. I mean, this is obviously his best season thus far. I just don't know how he's doing it. Like, he doesn't have good pitches. Like, his pitches aren't bad, but they're not like, oh my gosh, like that 4-seamer at 92.6 miles per hour on average is insane. That changeup with like a 15% swinging strike rate is bonkers. Like he doesn't blow you away with his arsenal. And then also, like, I don't know, a guy like this, you expect like, okay, he must be doing it with weak contact and ground balls. According to Pitcher List, which has sort of like rankings on their player pages, sort of like the StatCast sliders, but for Pitcher List, so like for hard contact percentage, which is hard hit per plate appearance, rather than this Baseball Savant, which is hard hit per at bat. This one's a little more it's a better stat. He's 60th out of starting pitchers. I don't know if that's qualified or ones with as many innings as him or what. He's 60th. So like he's got slightly red, so he's pretty good, but he's not that great. And then he's 64th in ground ball percentage at 46.9%. So it's like he's pretty good in those departments, but he's not that great. And then he's somehow 26th in expected WOBA, which is like, where is that coming from? Yeah, like he's not getting ground balls. He's striking out 20% of batters. He's not inducing a ton of weak contact. And yet his xERA and his xWOBA are super amazing. I don't know what he's doing it because he also walks guys. His 7.6% walk percentage is not great. It's 111th among starters, which I don't get it. And somehow he's got the 27th best ERA. He's just been a really great innings eater. He's somehow 10-5 on a last place team. I don't know how he's doing it, but he just keeps doing it. It was at the beginning of the season. It was like the changeup he had was becoming like his best pitch. It was not his second most used pitch in seasons prior, but this year he's had a really great feel for it. I don't know if he's changed anything about it. Yeah, he's throwing it harder. It's probably getting a little bit more movement as well, but I mean that's been his best pitch, and it's not like I mean, it's pretty freaking good. It's a pretty good changeup, and so he must just have some crazy feel for his changeup that's allowing him to break out this year. But yeah, I have no idea how he's been doing this all season, but he has.
Yeah, looking at his like pitch tracking on Savant, I'm trying to like figure out like what's doing it for him, and it's like weird. Like you said, you don't understand. I'm looking at the numbers and I don't understand.
Yeah.
Because like you can look at like his XBA on like his fastball and his changeup, and they're a lot lower than the actual batting average against. Like over, I think both are over to 35 points higher. Which is pretty crazy. You look at like his cutter. His cutter's got like a 188 XBA and a 179 batting average. Sinker, 259 XBA, 214 actual batting average. Like he's like underperforming some things and then like overperforming some things. And it's like it doesn't make any sense until you look at the funniest thing that I saw from this, which has nothing to do with it. But he's thrown a slider 5 times this season. Only against right-handed batters. And what do you think the whiff percent on that is off the top of your head, Jake?
I'm going to go with 0.
It's 100%.
What?
100. He's thrown 5 sliders, and every one of them has been swung and missed on.
That must be like a miscalculation on a cutter or something.
It must be. He's got 1 strikeout on it.
It's pretty crazy.
50% butt weight percent. There you go. Shout out to Merrill Kelly's phantom slider that he's thrown five times. That's apparently unhittable.
Be on the lookout, batters.
Yeah, be on the lookout for that wonky slider. Enough about Merrill Kelly. We'll stay in the NL West. Some deadline extensions, not trades. One of these makes sense. One of them is really dumb. So we'll talk about the one that makes sense. The San Diego Padres, after a lot of talks, have extended their hometown boy Joe Musgrove for 5 years, $100 million dues. Joe Musgrove this year, 115 and a third innings pitched. He's got a 2.65 ERA, sub 1 whip, 0.99, 25.9% K percent, worth 2.6 F4. This contract comes with a full trade clause, or full no trade clause. He's got limited trade protection.
Traded.
Yeah, it has to be traded at some point. He has limited trade protection in 2027, though. This makes a lot of sense for the Padres. He's been their best starter, really. Guy, hometown kid, everyone likes that story. People will come out to see Joe Musgrove. So I like this. Pretty like substandard contract for him too.
That's what I was thinking.
Kind of like an underpay, but then again, you do have the whole hometown kid thing. He probably wants to stick around. So good work here by the Padres. We'll see where they go with the rest of the deadline, but got one big move out of the way and another big one we'll talk about in a little bit.
Get that bag, Joe. I also thought it was it seemed light. I just feel like pitchers at his age, what is he, like 27? Oh, he's 29. Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. He's 29, but like I'm pretty sure he still had 1 more year before free agency, so that factors into it too, because it's going to like reduce the earning potential because it's covering a year of arbitration. But yeah, for a guy that has been like a top 10 starting pitcher this year, it's pretty weird to see him only get $20 million a year when you've got, oh man, we just got a trade coming through. The Yankees just got Frankie Montas.
Oh, wow.
And Lou Trevino.
Well, like, isn't Lou Trevino kind of mid?
No, he's not. He's actually having his best year according to underlying stats. His
I don't watch
surface stats have been terrible. Hey, me neither. I can't. It's blacked out. His surface stats are terrible, but his underlying metrics are crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to throw that in the rundown. Holy moly!
He's got a good FIP and XFIP. You're right. ERA looks really kind of gross, but.
Oh my. Well, okay. Stay focused, Jake. We're literally about to hit the trade section. We just got one more guy to talk about. But yeah, the Musgrove extension, like I said, there's the caveat of him being arbitration eligible next year, which like he would probably not earn that amount. Yes.
There's another potential trade happening. Trey Mancini is going to go to the Astros.
Oh my gosh. What is going on? MLB said, wait, is free baseball going right now? Oh shoot,
let's put all the news out.
Yeah, but you know what they wouldn't put out? MLB Players of the Month. Come on, guys, stop dropping the ball. All right. Okay. Well, let's talk about this next one, and then we can start talking about trades. Like, we literally only have a few segments today. Usually we've got like 15 things to talk about, but this is going to be
Yeah.
another 2-hour podcast talking about like trades and month in review, and that's it. So yeah, let's hit that other trade because
Okay.
it's
Or
hilarious.
the other
Or
extension stays in the NL West. This time it is our favorite team, podcast favorite team, Colorado Rockies. They extended their 38-year-old closer Daniel Bard for 3 years, $19 million. Jake put the literal top thing on this. Is just LMAO in all caps. This season, Bard has been really good. He's got 38.2 innings pitched, got a 1.86 ERA with a 1.03 WHIP, 27.5% strikeout percentage. He's worth 0.7 F4. This is dumb by the Rockies. The Rockies are nowhere even remotely close to contention. Everyone knows it's dumb. They're not close to contention. They have a valuable trade chip. He was probably like outside of, I guess, another guy we'll talk about in a minute or two. He's probably one of the best relievers on the market, and they didn't trade him and instead extended him. I know this is dumb, and I'll hand this over to you before I attempt to play devil's advocate for a minute or two.
It is so funny to me. We were talking about it. I mean, we talk about the Rockies a lot because they have just become
So
like
dumb.
our like favorite franchise because they're so stupid. It's such a meme. They just do such goofy stuff. It's like what you expect them to do, the common sense thing to do, they're going to do the exact opposite. I remember I was talking on In the Pen, which is my reliever podcast that I'm the interim host for over at Pitcher List. We were talking about the guy who I do it with was talking about how like Daniel Bard could be traded or like should be traded. And I was like, oh, well, I've heard rumblings that like he could be extended. And he was just like, what? And I was like, yeah, I mean, the Rockies
It's the
are
Rockies.
something. So
Are
then
you
we were
surprised?
talking in the chat and stuff like we always do whenever the Rockies do something stupid. Like I was getting notifications from MLB trade rumors like, hey, the Rockies may not trade Daniel Bard and CJ Cron and German Marquez and guys like that. And I was like, what is going on? The Rockies are so stupid. I just said Rocky's gonna Rocky. This is so funny. And then like 30 minutes later, they extended Daniel Bard 3 years, or I guess it's 2 years, 19 million, not 3 years. I mistyped that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's really good. So he like deserves a contract of this caliber. He's been really good, even though he's freaking 37. They just extended a 37-year-old pitcher. I mean, it probably has to do with they've been trying to find a closer or any pitcher that's good in Colorado for years. So they finally got one guy who, I mean, he showed glimpses in 2020 before he was not too great last year and then has been amazing this year. But yeah, you never see a guy with a sub-2 ERA in Colorado. But this is so funny because they are not competing this year. They probably will not be competing in either of the next 2 years, especially with the Padres and the Dodgers being so good and the Giants, always on the verge of, a franchise record number of wins because of just the way they're able to get the most out of their players. But the Rockies are so funny. It's just like it's like if the Cubs right now were like, they had David Robertson and like, he's going to be a free agent next year. He's freaking 37 years old. There's no reason not to trade him. They are like in the middle of a rebuild. And then they were like, let's extend David Robertson until he's almost 40 years old. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Why do you want this guy who's going to be 39? His arm could fall off at any moment. He's throwing like 100 miles per hour and he's 37. He's really good. Like I said, he deserves this money, but it's just so funny for the Rockies to do something like this when they're like 4th place in their division and they don't have any way to climb out of that hole. They don't have big prospects coming up or anything. And they just continue to do stuff like this. We've talked about John Gray in the past where it's just, they just dropped the ball with that last year. It's so funny. They'll sign they won't trade guys who are like on the verge of becoming free agents, but they'll trade their franchise cornerstone that they just extended for 8 years. Like when they traded Arenado, they'll trade Arenado 2 years into an extension that they just signed with him, but they won't trade a 37-year-old closer who could net them a bunch of prospects and is like going to be a free agent after this year. It's just the opposite of common sense. I don't get it. And I could literally just say the same thing over for an hour, but I want to hear if what your devil's advocate or if you want to rag on me.
You mostly covered it with like they just can't find pitchers that want to actually pitch in Colorado, and it makes sense for Bard. If they were just like, look, man, Oh, you're old. You're an old man now. I understand you probably don't want to move to another place and continue to move once you're, 38, 39, 40. So they made him an offer, and it's kind of like Kyle Freeland, where it's like Kyle Freeland, like Bard is good. Kyle Freeland, not so much, but like Bard is a good reliever. Kyle Freeland, pretty good, pretty decent, solid starter. If you get guys that are actually willing to try to pitch in cores, the Rockies probably ought to keep him. It just doesn't make any sense for Bard because they probably got something half decent for Bard. So like, I don't know. It seems goofy because it is goofy and it's the Rockies. But carrying on to trades that have actually happened. Unlike the Daniel Bard one that never happened. Of course, the first big move took place a little bit before the deadline. It's like a rolling deadline now through the next couple of days. But the Kansas City Royals traded outfielder Andrew Benintendi to the New York Yankees for prospects Beck Way, TJ Sikkema, and Chandler Champlain. Benintendi on the season, he's having a really good year. He was an all-star, hitting 320, 387 on base, 398 slug, 3 home runs, 4 steals, got a 126 WRC plus, and he's been worth a little bit over 2 FWAR with KC. He is an expiring contract, so that's why they didn't really need to give up all that much for him. But they gave up Beck Way, who was their number 19 prospect, according to the MLB Pipeline. He's a solid 22-year-old right-handed pitcher who's the 4th round pick in the 2020 draft in this year in A+ ball. He is gone 72 and a third innings pitched. He has a 3.73 ERA, 1.12 WHIP, 27.6 strikeout percent, which is pretty solid. Sikkema, he is another pitching prospect, this time 24 years old. He was a competitive balance pick, 38 overall in 2019. He was their number 21 prospect, also an A+ ball this year. He has gone 36 and a third innings pitched with a 2.48 ERA, sub 1 WHIP at 0.83 and a 38% strikeout percentage. Really good. And Champlain, another pitching prospect, 23 years old, an A-ball this year. He's gone 73 and a third innings pitched. Got a 4.3 ERA with a 1.24 FIP, 30.5% strikeout percentage, and he was a 9th round pick last year. So not a whole lot. Not a whole lot there. Benintendi's going to be a good piece, basically picking up the slack where Gallo has just kind of dropped the ball because they needed offense out of their outfield. Besides, Stanton and Judge, and Benintendi contact bat kind of sorely needed in that lineup. That's Judge gets a lot of slack for it, and Stanton does too to a certain extent. But that lineup's kind of a big strikeout lineup, and Benintendi just doesn't do that very much. So, contact guy, he's fit in there well. Supposedly did agree to be vaccinated, which was a big hurdle that they needed to get him over so he can actually play in Toronto, because he was part of the Royals team where they missed half of their team going to Toronto.
Yeah, this is basically the exact opposite of Joey Gallo. They just they said, okay, Joey Gallo's not working out. Let's do something that's the complete opposite. Benintendi's obviously going to regress. No, he's not going to bat 320, but also he just has not hit for power at all this year, which is pretty crazy. I'm pretty sure he had some better seasons in the past. Like, he topped out at 20 home runs in his first full season, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. So it was looking pretty good for him. And now he's just become just a straight up contact hitter, but he's producing the lowest strikeout percentage of his career, the highest walk rate. So his plate discipline has become much better, and he's more of a contact hitter. Maybe the power will come with the short porch in Yankee Stadium. He was leading off in his first game there. I think he's only played 3 games so far, and he hasn't done anything. But I think he's going to regress, and I think Yankees fans are going to be disappointed, because I think Benintendi's good, but I don't think he's as good as he was in Kansas City. And usually when a guy is traded within the league and has done really well in the first half, it usually portends regression. I mean, just because it's already going to be coming, and then once you move to a new place, it's hard to recover. So I don't know how good Benintendi's going to be. I think he's going to be pretty average there, especially with the bat. He's not going to bat 320. He's got a 357 BABIP. For his career, it's around 320. So that's going to come down, but he's going to be solid. I think he's going to make Yankees fans more happy than Joey Gallo was making them. So it'll be pretty solid, especially with the other trades they've been bringing through. But the return for the Royals is pretty interesting. I mean, Benintendi's got 2 months left on his contract, so he's about to be a free agent this offseason. So getting 3 pitchers is pretty cool, especially, I mean, Beck Way, obviously the highest ranked prospect of the 3. He seems pretty good. I mean, they're all in low A or high A, but Sikkema is really interesting to me. If you've got a guy striking out 38% of batters, that's really impressive. He only has 36 innings pitched. I don't know if that means he's been a reliever, but I'm pretty sure he's been starting. I can pull that up real quick. But yeah, he seems the most interesting to me because of that strikeout rate. 38% is incredible. That's like, I mean, that's what's making me think he's a reliever, and he's not. He started 10 of the 11 games he's appeared in. So striking out that many guys, even if it's at low A ball as a 24-year-old, I'm pretty sure he missed some time is why he's still in low A ball, because he debuted in 2019 at low A. I guess regular A. There's low A, regular A, and high A. Wow. Okay. Okay. Creative. But he must have had Tommy John surgery and then had to come back from that. But he's come back strong, so he's probably going to start moving up the ranks pretty fast. I'm sure the Royals are going to the Royals still have him at high A. They'll probably move him up to double A pretty soon. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting trade. We do have a comment from YouTube from Drunk saying, I want Juan Soto in a Cardinals jersey, and I want him in one now. What do you have to say, Mr. Cubs fan?
I want the opposite of that. I hope they don't trade for anybody, and I hope they trade everyone on their team. So I don't know. I don't think Juan Soto is even going to get traded at this deadline at all. And if he does, I think it's probably going to end up being to the Padres, who are just going to gut their farm system, give them literally every prospect for him. Yeah, I don't know. But, the Cardinals could potentially shift right now anyway, because they were supposed to be one of the other big teams in on Montas. So if they had planned on maybe getting both, they could just potentially throw more at Soto and just be like, all right, Nationals will give you literally everything for Soto, which still would probably be an underpay. I don't know. I hope they'd, for my own personal sake. No. Yeah, I am a Cubs fan. I am a Cubs fan. I don't want them to get him. I don't want to ever see Juan Soto anywhere remotely close to the NL Central, unless it's on the Chicago Cubs. Maybe the Pirates. I don't really care about the Pirates, but
yeah, it'll be really interesting. I would love to see Soto go, just to make this deadline just one of the greatest in the past decade, maybe of all time. If Soto goes, I personally don't really care where he goes, because I know he's not going to go to my favorite team. As long as he doesn't go to the Dodgers, then I will be completely fine. I'd prefer him in a Padres jersey as opposed to a Cardinals jersey. Even though I am a Giants fan, it would seem counterintuitive.
It'd be a more exciting lineup with the Padres.
I would love him more there, but yeah, I mean, just because I've got friends that are Cubs fans, it's hard for me to. Somebody needs to call the police. Davis is going to be pissed. Stinky Cubs. It'll be another 100 years before y'all do anything.
Probably more.
Hey, that's
It'll
fair.
probably be longer than that.
Yeah, probably 108 maybe.
But I can still be a hater and hate the Cardinals, which is exactly what I'm going to do.
So yeah, we'll see if Soto goes somewhere. I would honestly be pumped if he got moved to anywhere. So I won't be against him moving to the Cardinals, but Davis might shed a couple tears if he does.
I definitely will. Staying in a trade, NL Central guy. The Cincinnati Reds traded Tyler Naquin and Philip as a deal to the New York Mets for Jose Acuna and Hector Rodriguez.
They made a deal for deal.
Deal for deal. Naquin, not a great season this year after kind of like a mini breakout last year. He's hitting 246 on the season, 305 on base, 444 slug, 7 dingers, 3 steals, 104 WRC plus, 0.4 FWAR. This year with Cincinnati. He's a free agent in the offseason, so he's an expiring contract. Deals a 28-year-old left-handed pitcher who's kind of bounced between he's been like a quad A pitcher this year.
Mm-hmm.
27th round pick in 2016. Sorry. Okay. So this year in AAA, he has a 23 and a third. He's thrown 23 and a third innings pitched. He's got a 4.24 ERA, 1.11 WHIP, 30.6 strikeout percentage, which is pretty decent. And then in the majors, I believe he's only made one start. Got just trashed.
He's a reliever.
He's a reliever. Oh, well, still 1 start worth of innings. He's got a 5 2/3 innings pitched, 11.12 ERA, and almost a 2 WHIP, 10.7% strikeout percentage. So not much of anything there to really talk about. Do you want to talk about the return?
Sure. Yeah, like Drunk said, Reds are just a community farm system for the rest of the league.
It's
I wouldn't
true.
even call them that. They don't really have that many great players to be sending out. The return that the Reds will be getting, who will probably be traded into the future, are Jose Acuna, who's a 19-year-old right-handed pitcher who wasn't drafted because he was taken internationally. He's pretty interesting in the Florida Complex League. He's tossed 25 innings. He's struck out 35% of batters with a 3.16 ERA and a sub 1 whip, which is very solid, especially for a 19-year-old. Just having any sort of strikeout potential is really good. And then he also moved up to regular A, not low A. 8 innings there with a matching 1.13 ERA and whip with a 36% strikeout rate again. So he's got some strikeout stuff. He's 19. It's going to be a while until we see anything from him, but I don't know. The people with the last name Acuna have been pretty good in the majors thus far. And then they also got Hector Rodriguez, who is even younger. He's 18 years old. He is a second baseman / outfielder. He was also taken internationally, but he's been pretty solid in the Florida Complex League, which is like one of the lowest levels that you can play at. I don't know if it's lower than rookie ball or if it's the same thing, but nonetheless, he's batted 356 there. He's smashed a trio of dingers. He's stolen 12 bases. He's got a 153 WRC plus. So he's been really good at that level, shown power, stolen some bases. So maybe he's a power speed guy. Maybe he's, somebody that doesn't ever make it to the majors. He's only 18. It's really hard to tell what the return is going to be for now, but to get anything for Naquin, especially a couple like low A guys, is pretty solid because Naquin is about to be a free agent. He's been really good against right-handers this year, but he's not too great against lefties. He's actually probably terrible against lefties, but where's he going to play for the Mets? Left bench? Because they have Canna. Yeah, they have Canna. They just got Vogelbach, who's going to DH. They have Marte, and they have Brandon Nimmo. So they don't really need help in the outfield at all. So he's going to be more of that fourth outfielder, filling in at DH as well, mostly playing against right-handers. And Deal is probably not going to be much. 11 ERA and a near 2 whip in the majors. I know it's a small sample, but yeah, he struggled thus far. And an ERA over 4 in the minors is never good, no matter what level you're pitching at. So he's got some strikeout stuff, but not sure if he's going to be making an impact this year, if he's going to be more of like a future consideration type guy. But this was one of the more minor trades of the last few days.
Of course, and the Reds made a bigger trade, trading frontline starter, one of the most coveted ones at the trade deadline, Luis Castillo, to the Seattle Mariners for Noelvi Marte, who at this point was their top prospect, Edwin Arroyo, Levi Stout, and Andrew Moore. So, I mean, Castillo this season, he's been good. And there's a pretty decent enough sample size to know that he's a pretty solid starter for his career. He's thrown 85 innings pitched this year, 2.86 ERA with a 1.07 whip. He's got a 25.8% strikeout percentage. He's worth 2.1 FWAR. He is a free agent after next season, so they have another year of control on Castillo, which is good. And I think the return wouldn't be as high because this was a pretty big return in my mind. They got back Cincinnati got back Noelvi Marte, who was, like I said, Seattle's number 1 prospect. He's the number 18 prospect in all of baseball, according to MLB Pipeline. He's 20 years old. He plays shortstop. He was taken internationally in high A ball this year. He is hitting 275, 363 on base, the 462 slug, 15 dingers, 13 steals, power speed guy at shortstop, 134 WRC plus. He's the big get in the trade, obviously. And maybe if he comes up in time before they eventually trade off Jonathan India for whatever they can get for him, maybe that'll be pretty exciting middle infield for the Reds to have in the future. They've got other guys like Ellie De La Cruz. So I mean, they've got guys that can play middle infield, and they're kind of stockpiling a half decent farm now. Arroyo was Seattle's number 3 prospect. He's a number 93 prospect according to MLB Pipeline. 18-year-old shortstop also. He's a second-round pick last year. In A ball this year, he's hitting 316, 385 on base, 514 slug, 13 home runs, 21 steals. So another pretty good guy there. 132 WRC plus. Sounds pretty similar to Noelvi Marte. Still just 18 years old. Stout is their number 5 prospect. or was Seattle's number 5 prospect. He's a 24-year-old right-handed pitcher. He's a 3rd-round pick in 2019. In Double-A this year, he's thrown 87 innings pitched. Kind of struggled a little bit. 5.28 ERA with a 1.3 WHIP, 22% strikeout percentage, and more. 22-year-old right-hander. 14th round pick in 2021. In A-ball this year, it's on 32.1 innings pitched. He's got a 1.95 ERA. Good Lord. 1.3 WHIP and striking out 43.6% of all batters faced. This was one of the bigger trades that has happened at this deadline. The Mariners weren't like really considered one of the big hitters in a trade for Castillo, and then they just kind of came out of nowhere. And it's like, okay, well, we got him now. Mariners going all in, trying to make the playoffs for their first time, and what seems like forever to the playoffs. Really exciting for them, adding to a pretty good rotation now with Marco Gonzalez and Robbie Ray. I like this trade. Obviously, giving up Noelvi Marte kind of sucks, but they're banking a lot on JP Crawford, and they're really trying to get where they want to go.
I would love the Mariners to make the playoffs, and this is a huge step for them. I think both sides did really well here. Obviously, the Mariners are trying to compete. They're trying to make the postseason for the first time since 2001. It's been more than 20 years since they last made the postseason. There's been a curse. It's, I don't know, Ichiro curse or the Major League franchise wins record curse, but it can be considered an overpay. They gave up a lot. Like, Marte is one of the best prospects in baseball, top 20 in all of baseball. Edwin Arroyo is also a top 100 prospect, and Stout and Moore are pretty interesting in their own rights. Moore is a reliever, so that's why he's only tossed 32 innings this year. He probably struggles with control a lot. Let's see, 12.8% strikeout rate, or walk rate, excuse me. So that's not been too great, but yeah, striking out 43% of batters at A-ball is really impressive. So, I mean, and that's the last guy. So Marte, I thought he was underrated. I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about some Marte who wasn't doing well, and he sounded like Javi Baez to me, but maybe I was hearing about the wrong guy. I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty solid plate discipline in the minors thus far. He's striking out 21% of the time, walking 10% of the time. So that's really good, especially for a guy of his age. I think he's got a really solid chance of being one of the best players for the Reds in a couple of years. And Arroyo is really interesting as well. I mean, he's only 18 and he's already a top 100 prospect. So obviously he's still got a ways to go until he makes the majors, but he seems very similar to Marte. I'm not really sure how their gloves are, but they both are very good hitters. Arroyo might even be better than Marte. Even like by the time he's 20, he might even have a higher prospect potential than Arroyo. But yeah, like Drunk is saying, JP Crawford is a beast and is already there at shortstop. So they don't need these guys anyway right now, especially they're trying to compete. They want to do well while they've got Julio up there, and Luis Castillo is going to help with that. He's having one of his best seasons. His strikeout rate has dropped recently, and he sort of changed up his pitch mix. Everybody knows Luis Castillo has an incredible changeup, and that was his bread and butter pitch, and that's not been the case this year. It's really fallen off, which is really weird. He sort of upped his fastball velocity to a new level, and he's become a fastball slider guy, which is pretty interesting. So his changeup is usually one of the better pitches in baseball, and this year it's only got 13% strikeout rate, which is lower than Merrill Kelly's changeup, which is pretty crazy, while his slider has become incredible. 34% CSW. He's actually not getting a lot of swings and misses, but like I said, that fastball is coming in at a average of 97 miles per hour, which is really, really good. He is a frontline ace. It's weird that his stats in Great American Ballpark have been better than his road stats, which is weird because that's a very good hitter's park. So it'll be interesting to see him go to Seattle and see if pitching in front of the fans in Seattle in one of the better pitchers parks makes him even better. But I mean, that rotation is really good right now with Logan Gilbert and Castillo and Robbie Ray. It's going to be tough to deal with. I think everybody's rooting for the Mariners to make it at this point. But yeah, I mean, this was the biggest trade up until today. Honestly, it blew my mind a little bit, because you would have thought like Castillo was going to go to the Yankees or, a team that like that. But the Mariners went all out. But before we move on to the next one, Drunk had another question for us, and it's related to this since it's about the AL West. If we are the Angels and we had to trade one, we were forced to. MLB said, "You guys are terrible. You got to get rid of one of these stars. You're like ruining our marketability. Would you trade Ohtani or Trout? Both
Trout.
fully healthy." Really, he's got so many years. I mean,
Trout.
I guess that makes sense because of the contract. But yeah, why Trout?
I mean, fully healthy right now, you still have to take age into consideration. Ohtani's got him beat there. Trout's contract is gigantic. And if they trade Trout, it would allow them to give Shohei Ohtani the gigantic contract that he's eventually going to get from somebody. Because the Rendon, if I could trade any of their big stupid contracts, it'd be Rendon.
Yeah.
I would throw him into the ocean, but and get rid of all that money. But yeah, if I had to trade one of them, I would trade Trout just because of the whole money thing. Shohei Ohtani, the thing with him, Trout's more low key. Shohei Ohtani, wherever he goes, he is going to print money. He brings basically every eye from the Japanese baseball market on Shohei Ohtani because he's a gigantic commodity. Mike Trout, everyone knows like, oh, it's Mike Trout. He's got a chance to be the GOAT. Injuries are kind of screwing him over there. But Shohei Ohtani is a money factory. He'll almost pay for himself. So I would keep Ohtani.
Yeah, that's why Artie Moreno is sort of backing away from trading Ohtani right now, because I don't think he cares about being competitive, and he just wants to bring in as much money as possible. And if you've got Ohtani around, that's going to bring in as much money as possible. It doesn't even matter if you're the Pirates, like that ugly Photoshop you sent me of him in a Pirates jersey.
You didn't like
but and not
That's
as bad
right.
as the Juan Soto in a Rockies uniform.
I like that one. That would be like the most preferable outcome for me.
No, I would laugh so hard if they just like traded their entire team. They're just like, you can have our team and we'll just put Soto out there. He'll be the pitcher, the catcher.
Could you imagine though? How many dingers do you think he'd hit in Coors? Because he'd be hitting 60 every year, and he'd walk at a stupid rate. So yeah, give me Juan Soto in Coors forever.
Yeah. For me, it'd be hard to trade either of these guys. Obviously, I think I have to side with you. Trout's just got like these back issues that are popping up now. He's never able to stay healthy for a full season. He's obviously the GOAT. He's one of the best players of all time. I think he deserves to stay around wherever he wants to play, and he's got that super long extension, so he's obviously not going to go. But if they found a suitor and they could trade Trout while keeping Ohtani, I think that would be best if I was the Angels GM. Drunk also says I would trade Trout as well. He says that he fell off baseball until Ohtani appeared, which is dope because I love Ohtani and I love the eyes that he's bringing in. And then he says something that I'm not going to let you see, which is Ohtani to the Cardinals. And I think that would be even more upsetting to Davis than Juan Soto going. So we will keep that. We will keep those vibes out of here, and we'll move on to your team making a trade.
Of course, this was a minor trade, but the Chicago Cubs traded reliever and also the lead singer of Coldplay, Chris Martin, to the Los Angeles Dodgers for second baseman / utility guy, Zach McKinstry. This is kind of a mutually beneficial trade just because Martin has been okay this year, nothing special. McKinstry is a 27-year-old quad A player. Martin this year, 31 and a third innings pitched. He's got a 4.3 ERA, 1.34 WHIP, 30.1% K percent, 0.4 FWAR this year. He's a free agent, of course. I was going to say they wouldn't trade him if he had control, but as a trade later we will talk about, that is not the case. McKinstry is a 27-year-old infielder / outfielder utility guy. In the majors this year, he's had a cup of coffee, been pretty miserable. In AAA, though, hitting 335 for the season, 417 on base, 487 slug. He's got 4 dingers and a 129 WRC plus. They made this trade and they got rid of McKinstry. Presumably because he's out of options. So the next time they call him up, bring him down, he'll have to be waived. He'll have to pass waivers. So the Cubs basically get first pick when they're inevitably going to do that now and just have McKinstry. They're going to need guys to presumably play several positions now because they're going to trade everyone at the deadline. So McKinstry will probably be with the big league club. He's 27 years old. He's got decent tools. Pretty middling hit tool. He's just all right. Nothing really to see here on this trade.
Definitely a minor trade. Love making the jokes about Coldplay, but McKinstry's pretty interesting. I remember when he came up for the Dodgers in 2021 and was sort of taking the world by storm, and then he fell off a little bit. But I think he's got some potential, even though he's 27 and really hasn't gotten much time in the majors, and his minor league stats aren't incredible. This is his best minor league season, I'm pretty sure, especially at this high of a level. But he's got really good plate discipline. He's pretty interesting. I think he already played a game for the Cubs this year. Yeah, he got into one game and he had one plate appearance and he struck out. He's got a 100% strikeout rate as a Cub. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of power. He can play literally like any position, which is pretty cool. But yeah, he should be interesting. He sort of fits the mold of maybe Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom, of just like older guys who never really had a shot and will be able to have a chance to play on a bad team that sort of just needs guys to fill positions. So he should get a chance there, and maybe he turns into something and is traded in a couple of years, or maybe he becomes part of the future team. But he should be a pretty interesting utility guy out there.
Yeah. Not much else to say about this. The St. Louis Cardinals, Drunk, if you want to talk about St. Louis Cardinals, they made a big trade right here. That's what you want. They traded Edmundo Sosa to the Philadelphia Phillies for relief pitcher Jojo Romero. Sosa's a shortstop. Really not much of anything this year. Hit 189, 244 on base, 270 slug, no home runs, 3 steals, 49 WRC plus, which is 51 points below the league average. He's worth 0.1 F4. Also, I think he had one of the single worst throws I've ever seen from a shortstop. So, you got that to talk about. But he's gone now. He's free agent after the 2026 season, and I just don't really get this for the Phillies, but they really needed some shortstop help. Jojo Romero, no, but they're the Phillies, so they're not going to do anything that they're supposed to do. Jojo Romero, 25-year-old left-handed pitcher. He's a reliever. Have you ever seen the one clip that he's famous for? It was him coming out of the bullpen, crushing a Red Bull can, and then sprinting out of the bullpen. He's got a long hair, cool mustache, so shout out to that guy. 13 innings pitched across basically his whole career. So, yeah, this is a kind of a weird move for both teams, I think.
No, that's not across his whole career. That's this year. He's pitched in the complex league.
What the fuck?
A-ball, AA, AAA, and
So
MLB.
weird.
That's why I put that in there. I wasn't going to put his stats for five different levels.
Whatever. Yeah. 13 innings pitched across literally every level of baseball.
So
Probably throwing in some wiffle ball leagues too.
Yeah, I don't know what the Phillies were doing with him, but the
goofy
Cardinals were obviously interested in him for some reason, probably because he's gonna get the rest of that bullpen pumped up, and they sort of need it the way they've been pitching this year. But yeah, I mean, the Sosa trade is weird. It's not like the Phillies don't have guys out there. They have Didi, who's going to be a free agent after this year, so that makes sense. But they've got Bryson Stott, who's going to fill in at shortstop next year at this soonest possible time. And I'm pretty sure they've got some guys in the minors as well that they would like to sort of factor in there at some point in the future. So I don't know what Sosa's going to be doing. He's going to be more of like a utility guy, I guess. He's probably a better fielder than Didi right now. So maybe he can be like a better defensive replacement that will help this horrible fielding team, because Didi is a terrible fielder at shortstop. But I don't know, considering that throw where Sosa nearly killed an umpire, I don't know how great of a fielder he really is, but yeah, he's really fast. He's shown some good exit velocities in the past, but he's really been struggling this year. And the Cardinals wanted to bring Paul DeJong back up after he was killing it in AAA. So it'll be interesting to see what the Phillies do with him. And Jojo Romero is probably not going to be the next Ryan Helsley or anything, but another minor trade.
Yeah. Just moving on, the Arizona Diamondbacks traded former franchise stalwart David Peralta to the Tampa Bay Rays for Christian Cerda. Peralta this year kind of fallen off after being a pretty productive hitter the last couple of years, hitting 248, 315 on base, 457 slugs. Got 12 dingers this year, 1 steal, 109 WRC plus, which is slightly above league average, 1.4 F4 with Arizona this year. He is an expiring contract, going to be a free agent at the offseason. Traded for a young catching prospect, which is kind of weird considering probably the most exciting player. Probably the two most exciting players for the Diamondbacks that are prospect wise, like outside of like Alek Thomas and their outfield guys, are catchers. But you get something for an expiring contract that you don't really need. It's probably not going to re-sign. They get Serta. He's a 19-year-old catcher signed internationally. Florida Complex League. Coastal Plains League is the league near my house. The Florida Complex League, he's hitting 315 this year, 464 on base, which is just incredible. 5-19 slug, 2 dingers, 5 steals, 172 WRC plus. Interesting prospect here. Rays will probably squeeze 15 home runs out of David Peralta in the second half. They're the Rays. They're like the East Coast version of the Giants. They just squeeze every bit of talent they can out of everyone they get.
Yeah, you said Peralta was falling off, but in fact, this is one of his better seasons. You could consider this his 3rd best season ever. He's had 2 other really good seasons. 2018, he hit 30 home runs and batted .293. And his first full season, I guess his second full season, 2015, he hit 17 dingers and he batted .312. Other than that, he's had pretty mess seasons. He batted .293 in 2017. He batted .300 in 2020. But the biggest part about this season is that he's incorporated power back into his swing. And I know that was like something that he was trying to do in the offseason. So it was like a concerted effort of him to try to incorporate power back into his profile. And that has resulted, while he was in Arizona, it was the 2nd highest ISO of his career, which is slugging percentage minus average, which basically shows you his percentage of extra base hits per at bat. So that's pretty interesting to see him able to incorporate that. The Rays are obviously going to platoon him probably only against right-handers, and he's going to be pretty good. I think I can pull up his splits versus right-handers, but he's really interesting. He's been really good this year. He's batting .268 with 11 home runs versus right-handers, which is good for a 121 WRC plus. So I mean that's pretty freaking good. Yeah, especially giving up just some like random catcher who's actually been really good in the minors. 172 WRC plus is nothing to scoff at. But yeah, I don't think anybody's talking about Christian Serta. Wasn't on any prospect list, but I think Peralta is going to be super underrated with the Rays. They're probably going to get a lot out of him as long as he can see in Tropicana Field, which is a concern for many batters. But he should be pretty good. He's been sort of having a very underrated, like unnoticed renaissance here in Arizona this year.
So I stand corrected on David Peralta. Of course, that's his 2nd highest home run total of his entire career. His 3rd highest ISO, which is pretty decent. Hopefully he can figure it out again and continue to hit for power in Tropicana. Got another really weird minor trade to talk about involving.
This is not minor, bro. This is our teams.
Yeah, involving mine and Jake's teams that we support. The Chicago Cubs traded Dixon Machado to the San Francisco Giants for right-handed pitcher Raynel Espinal. Machado is a 30-year-old second baseman / shortstop middle infielder. He's doing pretty well in AAA this year. He's getting 312, 402 on base, 394 slugs, got 2 dingers, 10 steals, 121 WRC plus. Espinal is a 30-year-old pitcher in AAA. He has thrown 83 in the 3rd innings pitched. He's got a 5.29 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP, 27.6% strikeout percentage. We talked about this being just a weird trade. Dixon Machado, I think he is also out of options, I want to say. So I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he's a 30-year-old minor leaguer.
Yeah,
shortstop.
He has no options.
Yeah, so he's no options. 30-year-old minor leaguer.
Were they going to call him up? I don't think they were going to call him up, so I don't even think that was a concern. No. I think the Giants literally went out and were like, hey, we need Dixon Machado. I do playing time analysis for Baseball HQ, so that's why I knew about the David Peralta stuff. I had researched it for the move that I wrote up a couple days ago, and then I also wrote up this move last night. So I've got a little bit of insight here. The Giants lost Brandon Crawford to the IL a few weeks ago, so they've been playing Thairo Estrada there, and that has been really good. Thairo Estrada is really good, and it sucks that Brandon Crawford's out. But then Thairo Estrada just got hit in the head with a baseball or something. I don't know if it was while he was batting or in the field or something, but he has a concussion now, and they just lost Jock Peterson to the concussion IL as well. So both of those guys are on the concussion IL. So that means both of their shortstops are now on the IL, and they don't have anybody that can play there. I mean, I'm sure they wanted to play Yermin Mercedes there, but their defense is already bad enough. So they were like, yeah, they must have been looking at Machado in the past recently. Farhan's always on top of every minor leaguer, I'm sure. So he probably saw Dixon Machado killing it in the minor leagues. But yeah, they probably saw him or just like, okay, this is a guy you could call up and plug right into shortstop. They may only need him for a week. Brandon Crawford just started a rehab assignment, so he could be back in a week or two. And I mean, Estrada could be back in a week, depending on how severe the concussion is. So they pretty much just needed anybody to play shortstop for the next week, and Machado shouldn't be horrible. He's got a really good glove. He's got really good plate discipline. He was walking 11.8% of the time with a 10.5% strikeout rate, meaning he was walking more than he was striking out in the minor leagues. He's got speed, got a really good glove. He just lacks power, which is basically the only thing that's not good about his profile, which is fine. Like, I don't think the Giants are even going to make the postseason this year with the way they've been playing. They're at 500 right now. But yeah, I mean, Dixon Machado is really interesting. I know a lot of people were fans of him when he was playing in KBO. He wasn't really that much better than league average over there, but he was pretty interesting. He batted basically 280 across his 2 seasons there, combining for 17 home runs and 23 steals. And that was across 2 full seasons. So cut those numbers in half. But you know, he's been playing baseball in professionally since I was 12 years old. So he has been around for a while. Since 2009, he was in the Tigers system. But yeah, I mean, he's been with the Cubs for the last few years or so and hasn't been doing much. And Reynel Espinal, what is this trade? Why would the Cubs do this? I mean, I'm sure they could have gotten anybody else, but they're just like, oh, let's trade our 30-year-old minor leaguer for a 30-year-old relief pitcher who's been terrible. I don't even know if he's a relief pitcher. I think he's more of like a swingman. He's been starting games. He's been relieving and stuff. But yeah, a 5.3 ERA and a 1.5 whip in AAA, bro, come on. And how much better is he going to be in the major leagues? You know, I've waxed poetic about this very, very, very minor trade. But yeah, I mean, if people are looking for information on Dixon Machado and this blockbuster deal, then this is the place to be. Did you have any other feelings about this trade when it went down?
Well, of course, the return for Machado isn't very good. Espinal just doesn't make a lot of sense, but the Cubs' reasoning behind this trade is, of course, I mean, Machado's out of options. He's a guy that's been in their minor league system for a while. This is a chance to do right by a minor leaguer, which looks really good when you're trying to sign players internationally to play, of course, in your minor league. So, you know, you get Machado and you're like, all right, well, you know, here's your chance to go play. We're not going to hold you here. We'll basically give you away because Reynel Espinal is not a big get. Who knows? He'll probably end up with the big league team after they trade 17 players off their 26-man roster. Yeah, I mean, that's the only move that I could potentially see for it. But yeah, it's kind of a do-right move by Machado. So, you know, Jed trying to curry some favor with free agents who, for some reason, might want to sign with the terrible Chicago Cubs. But that's the only reason I could think of. Moving on. We've got another Chicago Cubs trade. They've traded relief pitcher, sidewinder, submarine guy Scott Effross to the New York Yankees for pitching prospect Hayden Wesneski. I think that's how it's pronounced. Wesneski, whatever. Scott Effross this year, 44 innings pitched, got a 2.66 ERA, 1.07 WHIP, 28.1% strikeout percentage. He is a free agent after 2027. This is the big part of this trade that is frustrating for a lot of Cubs fans. Including myself. He has 5 years of control. He's literally debuted this season. He's a rookie. And they traded him at the deadline to the Yankees. Wesneski's the number 7 prospect, or was the number 7 prospect now, in the Yankees farm system. I think he's slotted in at 10 now for the Cubs. He's a 24-year-old right-handed pitcher. He's a 6th-round pick, 2019. This year in AAA, he's been pretty solid. 89 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's got 3.51 ERA with a 1.15 WHIP. 22.4% strikeout percentage. This is a trade that's kind of a head scratcher. It's kind of a head scratcher for me as a Cubs fan. And even though the return is big because they got a top 10 prospect for a reliever, it is a controllable reliever, and it is he has been the best Cubs reliever this year. Like, Robertson's been good as the closer. Effross has been their high leverage guy everywhere else. He's pitched in every single situation. He's closed a couple games, pitched in extra innings. He's done everything you wanted him to. He's controllable, and they traded him. And they traded him for a 24-year-old minor leaguer that looks like he could be something, but I don't know. I saw a report that a couple guys that covered the Yankees farm system thinks he had a little bit higher upside or higher floor than fellow Yankees prospect who may or may not have been traded. Stay tuned. Ken Waldichuk. But yeah, this was a weird move, and the Yankees, congratulations. Scott Effross is a great reliever. He's going to fit in well. He's just a good pitcher, and they've got him for 5 years. Which if Wesneski turns out to be Cy Young winner, you lost the trade. Odds are he doesn't, so you probably won the trade. In my mind,
very weird trade. I everybody thought, David Robertson and Michael Givens were going to be on the move, which I'm sure they still will be. And Chris Martin went off. So you were like, okay, here goes the sell off of the Cubs relievers, which as a fantasy manager, a fantasy guy, a bullpen expert, as some might say, probably mostly just me. But I'm always looking to see who's going to be the next closer, especially during this time where there is so much movement. And Effross was like the clearest guy among all of the teams that were going to be trading their closer. He was the clearest guy who's going to take over, was going to be one of the newest closers. And now he's gone. It made no sense for me. Like, why would the Cubs trade a guy that could be around, for the next 5 years or whatever? And he's been so good. You read off his stats, 2.66 ERA. He's really incredible. He's a sidewinder. He's got a weird delivery. I love what he's been doing over there for the Cubs. You could call this the next Clay Holmes, but I would say Effross has already been really good. So it's not really sort of in the same vein where it's like Clay Holmes wasn't pitching well, then went to the Yankees and became an ace. Like Effross could become an ace, but I think even if he pitches like he has been doing, he's just going to be really good, which he'll get more notoriety pitching in New York because, it's pretty similar market to Chicago, but I think more people are paying attention to the Yankees right now than the Cubs, sorry to say. But yeah, you said Wesneski, I misspelled his name here. Bothers me when I do a typo in the rundown, but I was Russian. I'm not Russian. I was rushing. But yeah, if you're getting a top 10 prospect for like a random reliever, it's pretty solid, especially, but it's like, I don't know. It's like, how much more control does this guy have than Effross? I guess Wesneski is a starter, so maybe they see a lot in him. He hasn't been striking out a lot of guys in the minor leagues. He's already in AAA, so he's going to be up in the next year or two. So yeah, I don't know what the Cubs are doing. Maybe they saw a lot in Wesneski, but yeah, I would have expected them to get more for Effross, and then it would have made sense because they really didn't have to trade him at all. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Wesneski's going to be really good, but I sort of doubt it. I sort of think that the Yankees won that trade because Effross is going to really solidify that bullpen even further.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's like it's like the argument's like, oh well, we got a top 10 prospect for him. It's like, well, you had the best reliever on your team, and he's under control. I know he's 28 and he's got 5 years of control to be like, oh, he'll get old. He doesn't throw hard. He's a sidewinder. It's not like it matters. Like, it's not like it's like, oh, his velo will fall off. Bro, he throws like 90 at most. Like, there's no reason to trade a guy like that for a lottery ticket of a prospect, which is frustrating. They didn't get more for him. Wesneski, maybe he'll be like a really good starter. Maybe he'll come up like right after the trade deadline because you have to think they're going to trade. They're like bare minimum going to trade Wade Miley, maybe even Kyle Hendricks. Like their rotation is just kind of like a shambles right now, and they'll have Wesneski to plug in maybe, and Alzolay to come back. Like, I don't know. It's a weird trade. It didn't make any sense. But congratulations to the Yankees because he's really good, and I can imagine him being really good in that bullpen for quite a while. Moving on, staying in the NL Central, this time another weird reliever trade. A little bit bigger than Scott Effross, though. The Milwaukee Brewers traded their star closer, Josh Hader, to the San Diego Padres for a package that includes Taylor Rogers, Robert Gasser, who is their number 7 prospect, Esteury Ruiz, who was, I think, their 27th or 28th prospect. I'm just looking off the top, and Dinelson Lamet, who's kind of been in and out of the big league team this year. Hader's got a year of control, and it's not very often that you see a team that's literally in first place in the division trade their star closer or anybody that's like actually doing really well for them. It's kind of counterintuitive. Hader, 34 innings pitched this year, 4.24 ERA, the 1.12 WHIP, 41.8% strikeout percentage. He's a free agent after next season, so there's still a year of control on Hader. For the Brewers side, I don't get this. Rogers, he's Rogers this year. He's kind of been high leverage closer role for San Diego. He's got 41 in the third innings pitched, got a 4.35 ERA. They won .11 whip, 27.6 strikeout percentage. He's a free agent after this year. So they gave up a year of control, replaced him with Rogers, who's a free agent after this year. After his first 20 and a third innings pitched for Rogers, he had a sub-1 ERA, 0.44. In his last 21 innings pitched, it's at 8.14, which is kind of similar to Hader. Hader was doing really well.
I've got that stat too.
Yeah, he's kind of gotten blown up over his last 6, I think.
It's been longer than that, actually. I don't have this included in his last like 3 or 4 appearances, because this is something I posted in the middle of the month when, like, right after Hader had that massive explosion against I forget which team, but yeah, he struggled. He had a scoreless streak of 17 2/3 innings pitched through his first 19 appearances, and that came with a .57 whip and a nice 69 batting average, 069 batting average against. And then in his next 14 appearances, which covered 12 and a third innings pitched, he had a 10.95 ERA with a 1.95 whip and a 345 batting average against. So both of these guys have started off the season really hot and then struggled in, ever since it was like after Hader allowed his first earned run, it was just all downhill from there. He's recovered recently, but Rogers is sort of in that same vein where he started off the season pitching at the best level he's ever pitched, and then he's really dropped off. So maybe the change of scenery for both of these guys can do something, but this is some blockbuster. I was not expecting this one. Not only was I not expecting Hader to be traded, but especially not to like another contender, especially not right now. Like in the offseason, it makes some sense if they get a bunch of guys back. But this was weird. You were telling me that the Brewers had to post one of, looks like one of those like apology like tweets where it's just like a big statement, and they were just basically being like, hey guys, we know what we're doing, like we gotta like make the team sustainable, we're trading this guy, like we know he's racist, we're trying to get him out of here. Like, no, it wasn't that had to do with that. But yeah, it was pretty interesting that the guys that they got back are pretty cool. Yeah, like you were saying, Rogers is going to be a free agent after this year, and Hader still has a year of control, so they still had to get a lot more back. Gasser could be pretty interesting. Competitive balance round B pick last year. He hasn't been too amazing in the minors. At high A this year, he's 30.5% strikeout rate is basically his best tool there. But a top 10 prospect is nothing to scoff at. Esteury Ruiz is really interesting to me. He has not been too highly touted by prospect rankings because he doesn't hit the ball hard at all. He's like a slap hitter who's really fast. He's incorporated some power this year, but this boy is fast AF. Like you said, he barely makes the top 30 prospects for the Padres, but he's only 23 years old, and he's played at AA, AAA, and in the majors this year. At AA, he had a 177 WRC plus with 9 homers and 37 steals. He batted .344 as well and posted a .474 on base, so he can walk, and he doesn't strike out too crazily. And then they called him up to AAA, and he just kept doing the same thing. Batted .315, hit 4 more home runs, and stole 23 bases. That's 60 steals across 2 levels of the minors in just the first half of the season. 60 in a half of a season. So he's super fast. He's really good at stealing. That was a 145 WRC plus at AAA. They called him up to the majors, and he stopped walking. He was a guy who was walking a ton, walking like 13% of the time in the minors. They called him up to the majors, and he literally hasn't walked once. Batting .222, has an equal 222 OBP because he hasn't walked, hasn't been hit. He's got a .333 slug. He's got no homers. He's only stolen 1 base because he hasn't been on base, and that comes with a 53 WRC plus. So maybe it was just a little too early for him. Maybe he's pressing, trying to make his presence felt, but also they haven't been playing him every day, which is going to hold a guy back, especially at that age. But there's obviously some potential in there. He doesn't hit the ball hard, like I said, so maybe he's not going to be one of the best hitters, but he is really fast, and I think the Brewers should be able to get at least something out of him, and he can play in the majors right now. And then Lamet is sort of in that, not in that same vein, but in the vein that he can also play in the majors right now. But he has had a weird career, to say the least. He's just been really terrible this year. They moved him to the bullpen. He's been struggling with injuries throughout his career. I think his best season was 2020, and that came after a 2019, during which he was pretty solid as well. He was striking out a lot of guys back then. 2020, he had a 2.09 ERA across a nice 69 innings, and he struck out 34.8% of the batters, basically 35% of the batters that he faced, which is really impressive. But he's been struggling with walks this year. He can't throw strikes. 14.5% walk rate is not good, but He's obviously a guy with a lot of potential. He's been in the bullpen this year. I think he can turn into something good, but in the majors this year, he's got a 9.49 ERA and a 2.03 WHIP, which is absolutely horrible. So I trust the Brewers in their pitching development that they can get a lot out of Lamet. He's always sort of reminded me of like Freddie Peralta, and that he's got a good fastball and a good slider. He just doesn't throw enough strikes. So based off what they've done with Peralta, I think they can get a lot out of Lamet. So this return is pretty interesting. I feel like a lot of it depends on what the Brewers can do with the other guys they got on top of Rogers. But I think it's good that they got Rogers so that they're not just like relying on Devin Williams. The coolest part here would be if Devin Williams took over the closer and Rogers was like a setup guy, because I think Devin Williams is one of the like top 10 relief pitchers in baseball. He's so freaking good, and Rogers is not better than him. So that will be really interesting. There's so many implications from this trade. It was like I woke up to this and I was like, holy S, like what is going on? Did not expect this, but yeah, I mean, I just went off there, but it's a very, very interesting trade. Excited to see what the Padres follow this up with, because now they've got one of the top 5 closers in baseball, and they didn't really lose much of their team, much of the guys that were contributing to the team. So what were your thoughts on this blockbuster trade?
Yeah, I thought the return for Hader was an underpay. They didn't give up that much. Esteury Ruiz is he was a 4th outfielder, not playing every day. Nelson Lamet's been kind of just not very good. I just don't really get this trade from the Brewers standpoint, but I think they're betting big on the fact that they can get something out of the guys they got. The big league team, Gasser, of course, was the number 7 prospect for the Padres system. And this is really good for the Padres too, because now they can go chase a big bat. Even if it's not Soto, they need to get someone that can play in the outfield, or they need to get someone that can play as a DH, or preferably both. And they didn't give up any big top prospects, so they could go after controllable talent. Like Passan was tweeting it too. And it's like, if they got Hader and Soto, like that's the craziest trade deadline return ever.
They could still do it.
And they still feasibly could do it. They didn't give up like really much of anything that I think would interest the Nationals. If a trade was going to make or break on like, oh, you got to give us Taylor Rogers, like that's a stupid trade anyway. So like, yeah, I love this trade for the Padres. I'm not crazy about it for the Brewers, and I'm saying that as a rival fan. But I think if they can if Rogers doesn't continue to get blown up, which odds are he won't. And if like Devin Williams can step into the closer role, because he definitely is a lot better than Taylor Rogers. Like I understand he's a great pitcher, probably not better than Hader at the time being. But Devin Williams will be a great closer for them, and Lamet will be a really good, hopefully probably stay in the bullpen as a swingman, because I think they're supposed to be getting Freddie Peralta back. Maybe add into the rotation, something. I don't know. I don't love this move for the Brewers. It is what it is. Another trade actually started happening right when the show came on. So the Oakland A's, Jake's other team, because he lives very close to them. They trade their ace Frankie Montas to the Yankees for Ken Waldichuk, Luis Medina, J.P. Sears, and Cooper Bowman. They get back 3 pitching prospects for Luis Medina, or for Frankie Montas, and Lou Trevino is also included in this trade. So they gave up, their closer, starter. They get back 3 starters. It's kind of 3 starting pitching prospects, and Cooper Bowman, who's I believe is a second baseman.
Shoot, did I not put Lou Trevino in there? Sorry. Yeah,
it's okay. While you're doing that, since I know you have a lot more to say about it, since you are a fan of the team giving away Frankie Montas, I think this is kind of a strange trade anyway for the return. Waldichuk is pretty interesting, but I just don't really get the level of return that they got. And the reason why is the age of the prospects they're getting back. Ken Waldichuk is in AAA and was supposed to be coming up probably this season or next. He's already 24. Luis Medina is in AA. He's 23. And I believe J.P. Sears. J.P. Sears is a 26-year-old pitching prospect who's in AAA. What do the A's want with these guys? Because they're not really going to be competitive probably for 3 or 4 years. Just like the state of their farm system isn't really good. It's not awful like it used to be, but it's definitely not great anymore. They got back a bunch of older pitching prospects. Like, you're just going to bring them up, and like by the time that your next team is going to be competitive, they'll have like another 2-year window, and then you trade all of them. I don't know.
Yep.
Because like Medina makes sense because he's 23. But like Waldachuk, he should be up now. He's 20. He would be up now if he was on a team not called the New York Yankees.
I think. Go ahead.
Like JP Sears, the same thing. Like those two guys would, if they were on the rotation for the A's, which I imagine they'll be up because there's like after they've already traded Montas. Like there's no reason not to play these guys. Like, what are you going to do? Let Sears languish in AAA for another year or so when he'll be 27 and then you'll call him up? It makes no sense.
Sears will definitely be up. I think they could use some help in the rotation regardless. But the other guys, I think what the reasoning is that you get guys who are this age is like you already know what they're like capable of. You don't have to sort of project on a 19-year-old pitcher, but also like when it comes to rebuilding teams like that just start rebuilding and then they trade for a bunch of prospects and they're getting like, I don't know, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that like, okay, like these guys will be coming up right when we want to be competitive. Usually like with pitchers, when they first come up, they're not good. Most pitchers don't come up right away and just take the league by storm. So it takes them like a year or two, maybe 2 or 3 years to, get their feet under them, get comfortable pitching against major league pitchers or hitters and sort of change their repertoire or whatever they need to do to adjust to major league hitting and major league offenses and that kind of stuff. So when you have guys like this that are going to be coming up like next year or the year after that, then they will have a year or 2 or 3 to get comfortable in the majors. Like I said, make those adjustments. And then by the time the A's are ready to be competitive again in 3 or 4 years, those guys are going to be at their peaks. And so then you can make the most of your window rather than being like, oh shoot, like we're ready with all of our position player prospects, but our pitchers are like just now making their debuts and they're not good enough. So if like Waldachuk is like one of the best young pitchers in baseball in 3 years, it'll be much easier to build a team around him, when he's at the peak of his powers. So I think that's the reasoning there. I love the return. Waldachuk's the number 5 prospect for the Yankees. Medina's the number 10.
Sears is 21. So Sears is 20
Bowman's
and
21.
Cooper Bowman's 21.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
I mean, and they've all been pretty good in the minors. I mean, Bowman has not really been. He's been batting 217 at high A. So not sure what they see there. He does have 35 steals though, so he is a big base stealer there. The other guys are pretty interesting. Sears has played in the majors this year, which is cool, and he pitched to a 2.05 ERA with 2 games started out of the 7 games he's appeared in. It's come with a 2.05 ERA and a 0.86 WHIP. He hasn't lost a game. He's got 3 wins, so that's pretty interesting. I think he's going to come up right away and be pretty dope. Medina was like higher ranked, I think. In years past, he's been in the Yankees minor league system since 2016. And this year he's pitched to a 3.38 ERA. He's got a 1.19 WHIP and he struck out 81 batters in 72 innings, which is pretty solid. I like that. I'm pretty sure his best tool is a 75 grade fastball. That's pretty interesting. It sounds like he's going to be throwing in the high 90s for sure. So that'll be pretty cool. Hopefully he doesn't end up in the bullpen. I hope he ends up being pretty good. And Waldachuk has just been rising the ranks in recent years. His best tool is a 65 grade fastball. So he'll be throwing in the mid 90s probably from the left side, which is what you like to see. He's got a 2.71 ERA in couple levels of the minors this year. He's made it up to AAA where he's got a 3.59 ERA across 47 2/3 innings pitched. So he's pretty interesting. Holy moly, 70 strikeouts and 47 2/3 innings at AAA. He is a strikeout machine. Sounds like he could be really cool from the left side. Excited to see what he can do. And Trevino was also traded to the Yankees. The Yankees just been adding to that bullpen. They already got Scott Effross, who we talked about, but Trevino's pretty interesting. He had, like a breakout season last year where he became the ace closer once Trevor Rosenthal went down with an injury prior to the season starting. And he got 22 saves across 73 innings with a 3.18 ERA. And you're just like, okay, yeah, that's pretty freaking good. And then you look at his year this year, 6.47 ERA. Wow, that's more than double what he had last year. But if you look at the underlying numbers, which is I want to do as a bullpen analyst and just an analyst in general, that 6.47 ERA comes with a 2.92 xFIP, which is the lowest of his career. So that already says, like, based off his skills and stuff, he is pitching at the best rate of his career. He's inducing the most ground balls of his career. He's got the highest home run to fly ball rate of his career, which is unlucky. He's got the lowest left on base percentage of the last 3 years for him, which also shows the bad luck. You want to guess, if you don't have it pulled up, you want to guess what his BABIP is.
Ooh. His BABIP. If he's having bad luck, it's high, of course. I bet his BABIP is like in the high threes. I bet it's like 370.
451.
Good God. So if they put it in play against him, like about half the time it's it. So,
It's like it's that's not even about putting the ball in play. Putting the ball in play would be like contact percentage. This is just like when a ball is put into play, players are reaching base safely almost half of the time, which is ridiculous.
That's miserable.
Insane. So he's just been super lucky in that department. And if you look at the rest of his underlying metrics, he's got the highest strikeout rate of his career. He's got the lowest walk rate of his career. Like I said, he's inducing the most ground balls of his career. He's just been getting super unlucky. And obviously the Yankees see that and they're just like, okay, this guy's going to regress. Getting him in a new environment will probably help out. He's not like a fly ball pitcher, so he should do well in Yankee Stadium. I think this is a very underrated part of the deal, and he's going to be amazing there. He's literally having his best year, and it just doesn't show in the surface metrics. And then Montas is obviously, one of the underrated aces in baseball because he pitches for such a small market team. He's got a mid-90s fastball. He's got a splitter that's one of the best in baseball. He also features a sinker and a slider. He's been very good for the A's over the last couple of years. Obviously, he had that deal with steroids, the steroid
performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, exactly. In 2019, he was on my fantasy team that year. So then obviously my league mates are like, bro, you're cheating. You got the steroid guy. I'm just like, yeah, because I knew I was the one providing the steroids. I knew he was on steroids. But yeah, he's come back and he's shown, like, I'm actually really good. That was just like more to keep him healthy. And he's actually been healthy across the last 2 seasons. Last year was really good. He tossed 187 innings with 3.37 ERA, and he's topping that this year. Although his strikeout rate has fallen just a tiny bit. I think he's really good. He's going to do really well with the Yankees. He just gets a ton of swings and misses. He throws really hard. He gets a pretty solid amount of ground balls. But yeah, I mean, you're surprised. Like, Yankees are usually interested in guys that, are abusers and not steroid abusers. They're more like wife abusers, not to joke about that, which I am doing. But, a lot of people hate guys that done steroids and then don't care about guys who are like physical abusers. And I think that's way worse. I think it should be the other way around. Like, who cares if a guy did steroids, he gets suspended, like, fine. Like, everybody's cheating. Everybody's trying to get an upper edge, and he was reprimanded. And the guys who do physical abuse are usually not reprimanded. But to keep things light, this is a very good trade. I think it's for both sides. It's pretty solid. I think the A's maybe should have gotten more if they're also giving up Trevino, but I think he's a free agent. I don't think he's a free agent for a couple more years. He's not a free agent until 2025, so he's still got 2 more years of control after this year. So the Yankees just capitalizing on the relief pitching market and getting all the guys with multiple years of control left. But I think it's very interesting for both. Yeah, I think he's still got 1 more year on his deal after this year. So they'll have both of those guys around next year and Trevino around the year after that. So this will be interesting to see what the A's can get out of the guys they got in return. But the Yankees are definitely improving their pitching staff, and they are probably going to be World Series favorites heading into October.
Yeah. I mean, I like the return for the Yankees, just a little bit more than the return for the A's, just because of the years of control. Then that seems to have been a theme that a lot of Yankees trade targets have had. Getting Efros, getting Montas, getting Trevino, Benintendi. They didn't give up much of anything for him, and he's just a rental. But guys that they're actually going out and using these prospects to acquire are guys that are going to be with their big league team for more than 1 season, which I like that approach. One last trade to talk about before we get to the mini draft results that I am dreading because I looked at the rundown. So we have a 3-team deal. This is weird. Doesn't happen all that much, but
love it.
The Baltimore Orioles have elected to trade Trey Mancini to the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros, in return, have traded Jose Siri to the Tampa Bay Rays and Chase McDermott to the Orioles. The Rays are going to trade Jalen Murray to the Astros, and they're going to trade Seth Johnson to the Orioles. And also, as a result of this trade, Brett Phillips is going to be designated for assignment.
No, yeah, I didn't see that. No,
that sucks. Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts on this trade, and they're like, mainly regarding the Orioles, it's nice to see Trey Mancini on a team that will have a chance to win because he seems like one of the nicer guys in baseball. And it sucks so bad to see Trey Mancini having to leave the Orioles the minute they might not actually be so terrible. It just kind of sucks. It kind of sucks, but congratulations to Trey Mancini. I know it's going to be bittersweet, but he'll have a chance to compete for a ring. I think I also saw a spray chart that he would have, if the stupid right field had, if the stupid left field, excuse me, the stupid left field fence had not been changed at Camden Yards, where the Baltimore Orioles play, and instead had the dimensions of Minute Maid Park, Trey Mancini would have hit like 4 more home runs and about 7 more doubles. So
No way. It's got to be more than that.
It's probably more than that, but that's like offhand. I can't find it now, man.
I got you.
It's on Savant somewhere.
Yeah, no, I got you.
It's on Savant somewhere. But yeah, he would have played a lot better if the dimensions of Baltimore Orioles Stadium were the same as
All right, here we go. Expected home runs. He's got 10 this year. Do you want to give another guess, a more educated guess of how many he would have hit in Houston?
17.
22. He would have had 12 more home runs. He would have had more than double as many as he's hit this year. That's how horrible
doubles.
that left field fence. 22 home runs in the Astros Stadium. That is the second. That's the third most disparaging difference between his difference. That's how many he would have hit in Coors. And then in Arizona, he would have hit 23. And in Cincinnati, he would have hit 25 if he had been playing this whole season in Cincinnati. Holy moly. The Orioles really screwed him real bad. He's got 10 home runs this year.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously not going to be with the Orioles much longer because he's going to be playing for the Houston Astros. Yeah, I think it sucks that he doesn't get to really be a part of the Orioles team that is going to actually be, fun. They're probably not really going to chase a real playoff spot, you'd have to think. But it is what it is. Maybe he'll resign. I don't know if he will or not. He could. He's going to be free agent.
He has a mutual option, so he won't be a free agent necessarily, but those are rarely ever exercised. So there's I think it's, I was literally researching this just the other day. I think it's like around 8 million or something like that. So he could decline, or the Rays could decline, or the Astros, and then he could end up being a free agent and return to the Orioles next year.
Yeah. But Jose Siri is going to go play center field for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's kind of an interesting one there too. He is kind of struggled in big leagues this year for Houston. They just haven't been able to get any offense really out of center field at all. And out of like their outfield in general, outside of people named Kyle Tucker. But in AAA this year, he's been a whole lot better. He's hitting 296, 346 on base. I think he's got 775 slug, which is crazy because he's only had a couple of games in AAA, 16. But, he's done well there, 156 WRC plus in AAA compared to a 55 WRC plus in the big leagues. The Rays are a team that will manage to get a lot out of him. You'd have to think, of course, they're out for Brett Phillips doesn't provide you a whole lot offensively, so they're banking on Siri potentially being better there because they're not going to have Kiermaier the rest of the season, which is
exactly that's the point I was going to make.
Yeah, it's not like Kiermaier's a big offensive powerhouse himself, but yeah, the move makes sense for the Rays. They're giving up Jalen Murray, who is not ranked in the top 100, to the Astros. Seth Johnson, who is their number 6 prospect, is going to go to the Orioles. Chase McDermott was the number 12 prospect in the Astros system, and he is also going to head to the Orioles. So 3-team deal. Don't see those very often.
Love me some 3-team deals. They're so fun to figure out the ramifications all around. Obviously, the Orioles trying to get some good prospects in return for their, lovable first baseman, but I would love to see him get back there. Jose Siri is pretty interesting going to the Rays. Like you said, Kevin Kiermaier's out for the season now, so they really needed a center fielder, and Brett Phillips really has not been cutting it. He's valuable in his own ways, whether that be personality or just defense and that kind of stuff. But Jose Siri, I think a very comparable guy is Adolis Garcia for the Rangers, where Siri just strikes out so much. He doesn't walk. He's got burgeoning power, and he's really fast, and so that probably means he's a pretty good fielder. I don't think he has the same arm as El Bombi, but I think Jose Siri is pretty interesting. That the Rays should get a lot out of him as long as they can cut down the strikeout rate for him. He struck out at 30% of the time last year at AAA and has been above 32% in each of his 2 stints in the majors the past 2 seasons. But yeah, I mean, he's shown the ability to hit the ball over the wall, steal a lot of bases, and hit for average. So it's really going to be up to the Rays getting him to swing and miss less, because that's really been holding him back. He's only 27 years old, so he's got a lot of service time, 6 years of service time left. He should be pretty interesting. Trey Mancini, you talked about it. He's been really great this year and would be better in any other park, basically. Still a 114 WRC plus, and I don't know if that's accounted for how bad the Orioles park has played this year, because he's been really solid and he's been really great in the past. 2019, he had 35 home runs. He dealt with cancer and came back strong last year. I think he earned comeback player of the year. So great story. I think he's a great guy. He should fit with the Astros. They really needed some help with Yuli Gurriel over there at first, and I don't think their outfield or their DH situation has been too great with like Michael Brantley out, and like they've been playing like both Jake Myers and Chas McCormick out in the outfield. So they could really use some help just to I mean, Mancini may even end up in left field, but should be pretty interesting there. And those prospects are somewhat intriguing. Seth Johnson, like you said, number 6 prospect by the Rays, which is crazy to see the Orioles get a return like that. He's pitched at high A this year. He's only 23, and his best tool is a 60 grade fastball, and he's pitched to a 3 ERA this year in high A in just 7 starts. So that should be pretty interesting. He's struck out a lot of guys, 41 and 27 innings, and the other guys are sort of on the lower end. So like you said, Murray's not even ranked, so I won't give him a lot of due, even though he could be something. They got him for a reason. And Chase McDermott, who's going to the Orioles as well, was the number 12 prospect from the Astros, and he is 23 as well and has been pitching in high A also, but he's got a 5.50 ERA, and his best tool is a 65 grade fastball. That's pretty common among relievers or among minor leaguers. But yeah, love me some 3-team deals. I don't think the trade deadline is even close to being done right now. MLB.com still has not released players of the month, but they did send out a notification that says get ready for Jake, and I was like, wait, what? You're talking to me? And they're talking about Jacob deGrom, who's going to be making his season debut today, which I am pumped for. But that is beside the point of all these trades. We went for an hour and 35 minutes talking about trades, and we still haven't even gotten to the main portion of the episode. Lord.
Yeah, got a lot to talk about. Of course, we do weekly mini draft every episode. Of course, last week I don't really want to talk. We did first baseman. And before we break down the picks, just gotta preface how it works. It's three tiers of players. We each picked this time from a list of 3, and we basically ranked them head to head on how their stats go throughout the week, kind of head to head matchup. And we added in that we are going to now face the ones that we haven't picked, which might just about be the only saving grace I have for this week. So starting out my picks, I went with, of course, we went with first baseman. I went with Paul Goldschmidt. He had he hit 154. He had his average is 154. On base 154. Slug 154. Congratulations, Paul. Scored one run. Had 1 RBI, no dingers, -16 WRC plus. Thanks for nothing, Paul. I had Christian Walker, the Arizona Diamondbacks. He hit 105, had a 150 on base, 263 slug, scored 1 run, came off of 1 dinger, 3 RBIs, 10 WRC plus. And then I chose Eric Hosmer, who hit .77, had a 250 on base, 308 slug, scored 2 runs, 1 dinger, 1 RBI, 67 WRC plus. Thanks for nothing, Paul. You're a bum. You're a bum. Never pick any more Cardinals players, no matter what, ever. They screwed me. I thought I was going to take them. Be like, okay, yeah, this will be the week. Paul Goldschmidt will be Paul Goldschmidt. Yeah, he forgot how to hit. Christian Walker, it was a gamble. Whatever. Hosmer stinks, but he somehow stunk the least of all of these guys.
It's pretty crazy how bad your team did. And I did
Awesome.
pretty well. I selected Freddie Freeman, Reese Hoskins, and Jesus Aguilar. Freddie batted 381. He didn't hit a dinger, but he stole 2 bases, scored 5 times, and knocked in 4 runs. And he had a 177 WRC plus, which might be more than all 3 of your guys combined. Yeah, it is. I don't even think all your 3
Not
of your
even
guys
close.
combined didn't
They didn't even combine
surpass.
for 100. They weren't even league average.
Yeah, that's they were well below league average. That's
Colossal
that's
bums.
crazy. Yeah, and then Hoskins was also really good. Batted 385, hit a dinger, scored 4 times, 3 RBIs and a steal. Batted 172 WRC plus. So both of my first 2 guys were above 170. And then Jesus Aguilar dragged the team down despite hitting a homer and driving in 4 runs. He batted 158, good for a 51 WRC plus. And the guys who were not picked, Pete Alonso, Rowdy Tellez, and Yuli Gurriel, may save Davis. I mean, I obviously destroyed him this week, but somehow the 3 guys
they won overall.
Yeah, somehow the 3 guys we didn't pick beat me. I think if I had chosen Yuli Gurriel over Aguilar, it would have been the saving grace. But Alonso and Tellez with 173 and a 167 WRC plus respectively were basically just as good as my first 2 guys. They combined for 3 homers and 10 RBIs. And then Yuli somehow came out of the dumpster and started hitting again, batted 364, stole a couple bases, had a 159 WRC plus. So, I mean, I obviously destroyed you this week. I'm just going to put that out there.
Oh,
You
yeah, no doubt.
wrecked. But I mean, they showed me up.
You got edged by the.
They showed me up. Yeah,
team,
it was
team
just
nobodies.
that last pick. That last pick really screwed me. I think even if I had chosen Eric Hosmer, I would have done a little bit better. But yeah, that's disappointing because I felt like I really had it. Yeah,
got to hand win to team nobodies. So we need to keep
it's all Yuli Gurriel there. I think.
I know. We need to keep like a running standings list of like what's the head-to-head record, because it's like you've got 1 win. You got 1 win. We both got kind of trashed in the All-Star thing, so we're not counting that.
It's 1-0-1. The non-pickers have 1 point now in their first week going against us.
Absolutely. So, moving on to this week, I need to start doing better in these, because I've kind of gotten destroyed both times. Well, like the other one was Quintana's fault. Like my other 2 starters did good. Quintana just got blown up. And then this one, it's like literally all
right there.
Literally, well, I was gonna say literally all 3 guys forgot how to hit. Eric Hosmer has previously forgotten how to hit.
Yeah.
But like the other
2
guys
trying to remember.
Yeah, the other 2 guys just super duper bums. This week we're gonna go to second base. Last week was first base. We'll do second base. Our picks for tier 1 in this, since we're gonna do 1 pick from tier 1, 1 pick from tier 1, 1 pick from tier 2, 1 pick from tier 3. Tier 1, it's Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros, Marcus Semien of the Texas Rangers, and Luis Arias of the Minnesota Twins. Tier 2 is going to be Gleyber Torres of the New York Yankees, Whit Merrifield of the Kansas City Royals for now, and Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tier 3 is going to be Colton Wong of the Milwaukee Brewers for now. There's rumblings he might get traded along with Omar Narvaez. Yeah, Omar Narvaez and him are supposedly on the block. Chicago Cubs star rookie Christopher Morel, and the Los Angeles Dodgers Gavin Lux. So let's go ahead and get this coin flipped and start this draft.
Yes, sir. All right.
So we can try to get out of here. In less than 3 hours. Tails, man. Tails never fails.
I knew you were gonna say that. All right, here we go. It is heads. So I will go first, and I am picking one of the 3 players from tier 1. Let's see. So I'm picking. Yeah, it's Altuve, Semien, and Arias. I want to pick Arias, but I think he's like clearly the like guy who's like he's clearly the one that doesn't fit among these 3. It was sort of hard to find 3 guys that fit the top tier with them, but I think Arias is really good. I think he's still worth it to have in that first tier, but I got to go Altuve. He's just so good. He's been really good all year. I've got him on multiple of my fantasy teams. I think 2 of them at least. 3 actually. He's been really amazing this year. I think that's an easy first pick for me.
Simeon's kind of had a down year, but he's starting to pick it back up again, which makes it tough.
Yeah.
Like he just hits for more power than Arias, but like, can I afford to blow that? No. He's got 1 home run like his last one.
Been stealing like crazy.
Has been stealing like crazy.
He's probably got as many home runs as Arias over the last couple of weeks. Arias just hit one last night.
Yeah, well, he had 1 2 games ago though. I don't know. That's tough. You know what? I'm gonna go with the recency bias. He's had two pretty good games in the last few days. I'll go with Simeon. He can't. All right, I'm knock on wood. Like, he can't do worse than Paul Goldschmidt did last week. I'm gonna go with Simeon.
All right, you get back-to-back picks.
Oh man,
Tier 2, Gleyber Torres, Whit Merrifield, and Ketel Marte.
I gotta look. He's like, Jake's the fantasy nerd. Like, I just like baseball. Jake likes fake baseball.
That's what my mom thinks when I tell her about fantasy. She's just like, wait, she's asked this like so many times, and I've been playing fantasy for years. So is it real players or
It's a video game. Jake plays fake baseball. Mr. Number Man.
yeah, spend hours a day writing about fake baseball.
Man, I feel like it's tough. It's like really hard. I'm not taking.
Hey, I mean that's what it's supposed to be.
I don't like Whit out of this. Do an even or odd. Do an even or odd. Do a coin flip.
You want me to do a coin flip for you?
Yeah.
All
Fuck
right.
it.
Well, here I go.
Language. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Tails.
All right. Go with Gleyber Torres.
All right. Thank God. I wanted
Heads was Ketel Marte.
I will take me some Ketel there because I think Whit has been actually pretty solid across the past few weeks, but he's mostly going to provide like stolen base potential. But I want a guy who's going to hit a couple dingers and possibly bat over 300, which Whit can do. But I like what Ketel's been doing in the second half. Gleyber was a good pick. And now you get the first pick in tier 3. I think I'm sort of baiting you. I'm baiting you with this one. Yeah. It's between Colton Wong, Christopher Morel, and Gavin Lux, to reiterate.
I know.
No, it's not for you.
I know it's between. I'm taking Christopher Morel.
I knew it. Yeah. I mean, I had Nico Horner on there, and then I was like, wait, he's not even playing second base. So I put Morel in there. That seems more fair as a tier 3 guy. And I'm going to have to match with my hat. I'm going to have to take Colton Wong. He is on my home league fantasy team. He's been really great for me. Actually, he's really underrated. I love what he's been doing. He's been really hot in the last couple of weeks. I think he's been batting like 400. Gavin Lux is there, but I'm not going to choose a freaking Dodger. So yeah. So let's recap those teams. I took Jose Altuve, Ketel Marte, and Colton Wong. So we'll see how those guys do across the next week. Davis took Marcus Semien, Gleyber Torres, and Christopher Morel. And the team that wasn't picked is Luis Arias, Whit Merrifield, and Gavin Lux. So fingers crossed they don't beat me this week because I'm going to take down Davis. Piece of cake.
Probably. The way my teams have been going so far, I'm going to get trash canned. Well, let's try to get through this month in review. Before 7:00
Yes.
7:00 tonight.
It should be easy for me. It's not even 3 here.
I don't know, Jake. We're pushing it. Okay, so obviously it is August 1st. After the end of every month, we do a month in review.
Perfect timing on this one, by the way.
Yeah. It'd be even more perfect timing if the players of the month would come out. Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred.
Google this.
I'm looking it up right now. It's frustrating because like there's players in the team of the month and they haven't posted the player of the month. Just pick one. So the league leaders in the AL for the month of July, the AL was Toronto Blue Jays, Lourdes Gurriel, hit 382 for the month. And in the NL, it's been Alec Boehm of the Philadelphia Phillies who hit 434 for the Phillies. Do you just want me to keep running down the names?
No, we can go one at a time, but let's just maybe keep our analysis light.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Gurriel, a lot of his game is is predicated on contact, but he also got a huge boost from the absolute slaughter of the Boston Red Sox in July, where he got 6 hits. I think he went 6 for 6, which is pretty crazy. And Alec Boehm just consistently makes great contact, and he's really kind of stepped it up after starting the season pretty miserably, having the whole meltdown of I hate Philly, and he just puts the ball in play. So, and he's a guy that's always kind of put the ball, like he's always hit for a lot of contact and struggled to hit for power. And like he seemed to change his approach to like try to hit for more power and lost it. It seems to be going back to just kind of knocking the ball in play. really good for him. He's got 106 hits already this season in 94 games, which is really good. Just the 7 home runs, though, for a corner infielder is typically pretty light. But Alec Boehm, 434 average for the month.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's batting like 300 for the season. He's got a 106 WRC plus because he just doesn't put the ball in the air. His ground ball rate's got to be bonkers. 43%. That's not too bad. 44% basically. It's even better than last year, which is crazy. Average exit velo is 90. So I mean that's really good. I don't know what it is. You're just not hitting the ball over the wall. He just must hit a lot of line drives. He's got a 28% fly ball rate. Yeah, that'll do it. But yeah, I mean, he was a guy who showed a lot of power in the minors, so it's pretty weird to see him not hitting for power. But I mean, at least he's providing value. And Lourdes, like you said, had that 6-hit game, which is driving his month. But for the season, he's batting .310. He's got a 122 WRC plus, which is very, very good. He's striking out at the lowest rate of his career. Very cool. He's also walking at the highest rate of his career, and it's only 6.5%. So
really,
that's about
crazy.
it. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So yeah, he's. He is who he is, and the Blue Jays are happy to have him. Thanks for showing up drunk. He says, great stream, fellas. We appreciate it. We've been going like 2-hour podcast for this is like 4 in a row now. We've just been going ham. There's too much to talk about. I can't shut my mouth. But yeah, I will move on from those guys who led their respective leagues in average over the past month.
Yeah, the league leaders in hits in the AL is the Cleveland Guardians' Stephen Kwan with 38. Hit the Kwan. Underrated rookie of the year shout, if not for Julio Rodriguez. And then in the NL, it's Austin Riley, who led all of baseball with 44 hits. He also led all of baseball in extra base hits. Reached base safely in 33 of his last 36 games he's played. Austin Riley, I mean, when Player of the Month comes out, you could basically pencil him in for NL Player of the Month. We just need to figure out who the AL one is. Riley's so good. And Stephen Kwan, he does not miss the baseball when you throw it to him. 8.9% walk percent, 8.6% strikeout rate. He just puts the ball in play every time, never swings and misses. I think his zone contact was pretty crazy. I need to look that up, but yeah, I mean,
I got you. Zone contact is like 95%, 96%. Bonkers.
Yeah. So Stephen Kwan, really good player. He also threw out a runner from like deep left field yesterday. So shout out to Steven. Hit the Kwan.
I love what he does. He just does not hit for any power, which Austin Riley sort of makes up for. I've loved Kwan since like January, even before the season started. His minor league stats are crazy. I just love guys. I'm enamored by guys that walk more than they strike out. It just shows how much control they have over the strike zone and everything like that. It just shows like they're great hitters. But yeah, he just does not hit for power. He got that dog in him though. And
he does.
That's what makes him so good. Yeah.
His X grit is in the 100th percentile.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe above that. But Austin Riley having a great month. He's having a great year. This is a guy we will cover in September when we go back over my buy or sell offensive breakouts from the offseason, because Austin Riley was on that list and I bought him. And he proved me right. Yeah. I mean, his BABIP has come down and he's just become a better hitter, striking out at the lowest rate of his career for a full season. He's already at 29 home runs, which is 4 away from his career high, which he set last year at 33. He's got a 163 WRC plus for the season. He's just been killing it. One of the best players in baseball. To be honest, he's like, top 3, top 4, third baseman, definitely top 5. He's been very, very good. Love what he's been doing. It's he could easily factor into the NL MVP consideration this year. A lot of people were saying that he should have been last year, and I didn't really see it with the way that who won MVP last year in the National League. Shohei in the American League.
Bryce Harper did, didn't he?
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, he did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And he had no chance to beat out Bryce Harper. But this is pretty interesting. Like if Goldschmidt continues to do what he did last week for your mini draft team, then Riley could definitely surpass him because he's been having a crazy, crazy good season. And I love what he's been doing.
Yep, and let's go on to home runs, where you'll see some familiar, runs, and then we'll talk about home runs. Runs
Same
is
thing.
The AL leader in runs is 25. The NL is 25 is Aaron Judge, and then the NL leader in runs with 21 is Austin Riley, previously mentioned. And then the same is for home runs. Aaron Judge 13 dingers, Austin Riley's got 11. Yeah, I mean,
Talked
pretty
about them
good.
both.
Pretty good. Aaron Judge obviously on pace to hit 66 dingers. Austin Riley on pace to hit for his career high, I believe.
He's gonna hit 40 for sure.
Oh yeah. Just said a lot about those guys, so we can just keep it moving if you want.
Yeah.
Runs batted in. Hey, some familiar faces. Aaron Judge led the AL, paced it with 32. In the NL, 2 Braves this time, Austin Riley and Matt Olson, both with 25, 50 RBI from the corner infielders of the Atlanta Braves in the month of July. That's just really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we discussed Judge and Riley at length this episode, so I'll give Olson some due. He's not been as great as he was last year. Last year, it was like the thing that made him so great was him reducing his strikeout rate and posting the highest walk rate of his career. So he walked 13% of the time and struck out less than 17% of the time. So that's why he was incredible. 146 WRC plus, nearly hit 40 dingers. This year, he has not been at that level, but he's still been really good. The strikeout rate is more towards his career rate. He's at like 24.5%, but he still has hit 21 home runs. He's going to surpass 30 for sure. He's got a 129 WRC plus, which is basically 30% above the league average. He's only batting 253, but I mean, this is what you get from a guy like that it's his first year in the National League. He's in a new environment. It's taken him a while to get the ball in the air, but obviously he was driving in runs like crazy in July, and it's just like him with his glove and stuff. Like he's not Freddie Freeman, but he is really, really good. He's a good replacement for Freddie, and he has been thus far. And the Braves have, they've still been really good.
Yep. Braves, of course, aiming to repeat. Matt Olson trying to live up to the lofty expectations left by Freddie Freeman. Moving on, we'll get to steals, where another Brave will figure. The NL leader in stolen bases for the month of July was Ronald Acuna Jr. with 9, making up for the kind of lack of power he's had this year by stealing more bases. And on the AL side, probably the second favorite behind J-Rod in the AL Rookie of the Year debate is Bobby Witt Jr. with 8. He's actually graded out this year, StatCast sprint speed-wise. Bobby Witt Jr. is the fastest player in baseball this year. So,
wow.
Yeah. Bobby Witt Jr. is the fastest player in baseball. Playing elite defense at shortstop. I can gush over the guy forever. He's going to be a superstar. Bobby Witt Jr., 8 steals, 1 behind Ronald Acuna Jr.
It's brought him up to 20 on the season, which has come with 14 home runs. Mm-hmm. He's got a 108 WRC plus, but I'm pretty sure like since the beginning of May, it's been probably much better. I'm just going to do the quick game log search here from May 2nd until the present day. He has been batting 265 for a 121 WRC plus with 14 of his 14 home runs. So that's pretty freaking good. 14 home runs, 16 steals during that time. He is going to be really good for a long time. It's great to see what he's been doing. Obviously, he's not going to win AL Rookie of the Year. He's in that boat with Kwan and Jeremy Pena of guys that are like, dang it, I really had to debut with Julio Rodriguez. Like, would have had a shot at AL Rookie of the Year if not for those meddling kids. Scooby-Doo reference there. But yeah, Ronald Acuna, super great. I love Ronald. It's been really disappointing what he's been doing with the bat in his return from his ACL injury. So he's got 8 home runs this year, where he's literally never even had less than that in any year of his career. Even when he played only 46 games in 2020, he had 14 home runs. So the power has not been there. He's batting only 259. So he's just not been able to hit. I don't know if it's like his leg still bothering him, his knee or what, but maybe it's not, because he's just stealing bases like crazy, making up for the lack of his bat production with his wheels, stealing 22 bases, which is already the second most of his career. And this is the second fewest games he's played in the season. So he's just stealing like crazy. He may surpass 30 in a shortened season, returning from an ACL injury, which is crazy. I'm very glad that he still has maintained that ability to run and stuff, because that was something everybody was worried about when he was like a guy who seemed to be a perennial 40-40 candidate when he hit 41 home runs and stole 37 bases in 2019. Everybody was worried about like, no, like his speed is gone. It's going to be gone after that ACL injury. But yeah, thank God he's come back strong. He just needs the bat to come around.
Of course, someone who the bat has definitely come around for in a big way.
Oh, yeah.
AL OPS leader, Matt Carpenter, Mr. Mustache, part of the Mario Brothers there with Nestor Cortez. He posted a 1.269 OPS in the month of July, which still got paced by NL OPS leader Austin Riley, the 1.344 OPS. Matt Carpenter, what a story this year for baseball. Matt Carpenter is
incredible. I don't know how he's doing it. We've talked about him previously on the podcast. Pretty sure we talked about it a lot when Devin was here, but 241 WRC plus on the season in 41 games. I feel like that's all you have to know. 15 home runs for the season. He's batting 321. I don't know how he's doing it. And it's not all the short porch. It's definitely not all the short porch. He fixed his swing. He talked to Joey Gallo this offseason. He's posting the highest barrel rate of his career at 16.7%, which is incredible. He's got the tied for the highest average exit velocity as well. But yeah, a 16.7% barrel rate is incredible. And I mean, it looks like he's not going to slow down. His XBA is almost 100 points lower than his regular average, and his X slug is almost 300 points below his regular slug. So he's obviously not going to keep up this pace, especially like playing more often, but he is very interesting. He deserves to be in the lineup every day, and he's been a great story, even though he does play for the Evil Empire.
Of course. And Austin Riley, we've already talked about him enough, so we'll glance over him. And then go to F4, where we'll just talk about him again. So league leaders in F4, it's those guys again. AL, Aaron Judge, 2.4 F4 for the month. Austin Riley, 2.6 F4 for the month. Just crazy. I mean, like I said earlier, you can just pencil probably both of these guys in for players of the month. For the spot. A couple more notes on Austin Riley in his streak where he reached base safely in 33 of his last 36. Yeah, I mean, like what? And this is bleeding into this month a little bit too. Like 54 hits, 18 doubles, 11 dingers, like 28 RBI now. He walked 11 times and he's only struck out 27. Like, that's just crazy. Aaron Judge, just an alien. Yeah, we'll talk about these guys a lot the rest of the season, I'm sure. Moving on to the pitching side of things, it's time for wins. In the AL, Dylan Cease with 5. Still probably the biggest all-star snub of the last couple of years. No reason this guy shouldn't have been an all-star. Just unbelievable. There was some like really lofty stat I saw him compared with that I've got to find.
Oh,
I think it was like
is.
he'd only given up like
I have it.
3 runs in 12 starts.
No, it's like even crazier than that.
It was he was in his category with 2015 Jake Arrieta and like Kershaw or something.
No, this one's even better. Most consecutive starts allowing 1 earned run or fewer since 1913 with a minimum of 50 innings pitched. Bob Gibson, 11 straight starts, 1 earned run or fewer. DeGrom, 12 straight starts of 1 earned run or fewer, and Cease just tied that with 12 straight starts of 1 earned run or fewer since 1913. That is tied for the record.
Wild.
One more start this next week, and he will have the record, which is crazy because I think DeGrom did that like last year or something when he was just absolutely crazy, or maybe it was even 2020, but absolutely wild what Dylan Cease has been doing. This just striking out everybody. He's got one of the highest strikeout rates in baseball, 33%, and that's why he's got like the lowest walk rate in all of the highest walk rate in all of baseball. Excuse me. It's just like making up for all those walks by just striking out everybody else.
Yeah, the stat that I was looking for is a little bit different, but it's a complete list of MLB starting pitchers in all of baseball history for the major leagues. And it's the complete list of starting pitchers to allow only 4 earned runs in a 12-start span, and this is not including players that would be considered as an opener. And this is Jake Arrieta, 2015, Jacob deGrom last year in 2021, and Dylan Cease now. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. So
Bonkers.
Cease probably AL Cy Young front runner. Right
no,
there.
Bro, you can't count out Shane McClanahan like that.
Well, yeah, but still, like, it's gonna be one of those guys.
It's gonna be a neck and neck race for sure. Both of those guys are very deserving.
Right now, if Cease keeps on the pace that he's at, it's gonna be really tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, if he doesn't allow more than 1 run in a start for the rest of the year, yeah,
he'll have to
for
give
sure.
it to him. And on the NL side, a cajillion guys. We have Reaver San Martin. I don't even know who that is. Merrill Kelly of the aforementioned Merrill Kelly Player of the Week. Kyle Wright of the Atlanta Braves, and Julio Urias of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I got to search for Reaver San Martin really quick.
The boy, he was a starter last year for the Reds. They've moved him to the bullpen. He's sort of like a swingman type guy. He was pretty interesting in the minors. He's just not been too great in the majors. He's been turning around this past month, which is good. Obviously, racked up the wins there, pitching in the middle of ball games, vulturing some wins. So good to see him on there. Reaver San Martin, that is. And then obviously we talked about Merrill Kelly, been killing it the last couple starts. Kyle Wright, I think he was the NL wins leader last month too. He had 5. Ever since I traded for him, he just like won't lose games. So, I mean, that trade has really worked out for me. The guy that I traded with got Alec Thomas and Ke'Bryan Hayes. Ke'Bryan Hayes has really been terrible since I let him go, trade him away. And Alec Thomas is now on the wire. So I think I won that one. But yeah, Julio Urias, he great last year. We've talked about him before. He had reduced fastball velocity this year, so people were pretty worried, sort of in the same vein as like Shane Bieber, where he had the reduced fastball velocity, but he's pitched around it. He's not striking out guys like he was last year. 2.5% drop, but he's still got a lower ERA, 2.71 ERA, 0.98 whip. He's been really solid, just like induces weak contact so well, 21.2% hard contact percentage, which is 10th best in baseball according to Pitcher List. So really amazing month for the 4 of those guys.
Absolutely. Moving on to the closer aspect of things. AL leader in saves is Toronto Blue Jays star closer Jordan Romano with 7. And then in the NL, we got 3 guys also with 7. That'd be Edwin Diaz of the New York Mets, Daniel Bard, recently extended Daniel Bard, rewarded for his 7 saves in the month of July by the Rockies, and Tanner Scott with 7. So there you go. 7 save guys. Daniel Bard's the big one there because, those specific 7 saves is what really convinced the Rockies to give him that extension.
Jordan Romano was the saves leader in baseball in the first month of the season, so it's cool to see him back on this list. Daniel Bard, we talked about. Tanner Scott's been pretty interesting since taking over the closer role for the Marlins because they really struggled to find anybody there. He walks a lot of guys, but he gets a lot of strikeouts. He's a lefty. Pretty interesting. Edwin Diaz, I got a stat for you. You've probably seen this one. His strikeout rate is 52.5% after he struck out. After he recorded outs via the strikeout in the last 7 batters he faced, 52.5%. That's bonkers. And if you don't know how bonkers that is, it would be tied for the highest strikeout percentage of all time if the season ended today, tied with Aroldis Chapman's 2014 season. And that's with a minimum of 40 innings pitched. It's probably with a minimum of 30 or even 20 innings pitched because that strikeout rate is insane. And Edwin Diaz has just been so good this year after everyone called him Ed Lose. Now he's Ed Save now. He's Ed Save Diaz now.
Ed Save Diaz. I like it. Play the funny trumpet song that it comes out to. That song
it's a slapper.
Yeah, in the season right now, after he gets like 1% so he can beat stupid Aroldis Chapman.
0.1% even.
0.1%. Yeah, there you go. 0.1%. Just anything to beat Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah.
Innings pitched for the month. The leader in the AL is Garrett Cole. Put up the funny fat picture of Garrett Cole.
I don't have it.
Garrett Cole with 38 in the AL. And then Merrill Kelly, the boy, 41 in the 3rd innings pitched in the NL, led all baseball. Garrett Cole, everyone kind of gave him a bunch of crap like at the start of the season because he had just kind of not been. He was still good, is the thing, and everyone was just like, "Oh, he sucks" because he wasn't as good as everyone else in their rotation. And now he's still got like a 3.3 ERA, like a 3.2.
Exactly. Like I don't know how the Yankees fans can see a guy that's like this good and be like, well, his ERA isn't under 3. So like, he's trash. Shoot. Speaking of Austin Riley, 10-year, $212 million contract extension with the Atlanta Braves right this second. Whoo-wee. He gets player of the month and they said, all right, you're in town for the rest of your career. 10 years. Holy moly. Wow. That was unexpected to happen right now, but wow. Okay. That's a big deal. 200. We'll have to go into more depth in the next podcast about that one because we've been going for 2 hours, 7 minutes, 2 hours, 8 minutes now already. And we are just about finished with the podcast. But, I don't know if we have enough time to cover that one. But I'll give my thoughts right away. Great job. I mean, that's very cool for the Braves. They just extended Matt Olson as well in the offseason. So they will have both of those guys around for the next decade or so. I mean, Olsen for half a decade, but Austin Riley's clearly the like cornerstone they're building around. They'll have Ronald around there for a while too. So that's really cool for them. Big deal. Get that money. Austin Riley, like I said, $212 million through the, what is that, would be through the probably 2033 season or something like that, through 2032 or something. So that should be very, very cool. But finish my thought on Garrett Cole. Yeah, he's really good. People should not be complaining about him. He's one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball, and he eats a ton of innings. I don't know what more you could ask for. But what are your thoughts on this crazy new news about Austin Riley?
Albies is under contract until 2027 too.
All right, they've got a whole batting lineup secured.
That costs like nothing.
Yeah. Well, same
Shout
with
out to the Braves. Shout out to the Braves. Make your own trade deadline news.
Yeah.
Screw trades. It's the extension deadline. Extension deadline for the Braves.
Exactly.
Garrett Cole, obviously. I mean, I don't get Yankees fans who don't think he's good. He's obviously very good. So just get off your high horse about him. Merrill Kelly, they'll go beat Garrett Cole. So he's not as good as Merrill Kelly. They should trade him for Merrill Kelly. ERA leaders of the month: Dylan Cease, 0.76, paced all of baseball, followed pretty closely behind, actually, by Cookie Carrasco, Carlos Carrasco of the New York Mets, who posted a 0.9 ERA for the month. Also having quietly pretty solid season after, not so hot last year.
He's had 3 straight starts of no earned runs allowed to close out the month. That's pretty solid, and he never allowed more than 2 earned runs in his 2 starts prior to that. So, really great season. It's been pretty lucky. I feel like he's got really good stuff, and he's been really good in the past, and like he's coming back from cancer as well in the same vein as Trey Mancini. But yeah, I mean, he gets a lot of swinging strikes, but he's sort of been consistent from start to start. His underlying metrics don't really support what he's been doing this year. 3.79 ERA. He's only got a 1.31 WHIP. So even just by that rudimentary metric, you can be like, okay, yeah, he's getting pretty lucky if he's allowing that many base runners. But he's eating innings. He's getting a lot of wins. He's got 11 wins already this season. He's 11-4. But yeah, I mean, great month for Cookie Carrasco. 0.90 ERA is incredible, and it probably would have led baseball if Dylan Cease wasn't setting records. Did you just send me a funny tweet?
Yes, I did send you a funny tweet. The funny tweet was from Foolish Baseball, who you should definitely follow on Twitter if you like baseball, and it said, "Breaking: the 2022 Braves have traded Austin Riley to the 2032 Braves." There you go. Funny tweet time. Carlos Carrasco. It's good to see him kind of return to form after struggling, dealing with cancer and all the things he's had to go through. Onto the leaders in WHIP. We're almost done with all of these before we go down a few more standings things and players of the month, if they would show up.
Cross our fingers for that.
Haven't posted them yet. WHIP leader for the AL is hometown boy for Jake, Cole Irvin of the Oakland Athletics. And in a leader, Merrill Kelly. Shout out to Merrill Kelly. Cole Irvin with a 0.65 WHIP in the month of July. I almost said June.
Just super dope. I remember I had him on my mini draft team last week, and that was a couple weeks ago, I guess.
He beat Stinky Quintana.
Yeah, he beat the Astros too, and he's actually done that in 3 of his last 4 starts. He's faced the Astros. The other of the 4, he faced the Rangers, and he faced even the Blue Jays before that. The Blue Jays one, he went 8 innings and allowed just 1 earned run to kick off the month. And then the next 4 starts, he was just pitching against Texas teams. I don't know how the scheduling worked out there, but he never allowed more than 2 earned runs and never pitched fewer than 6 innings against the Astros during that time. He also did the same against the Rangers, going 7 innings and striking out 8. Pretty sure that tied his season high or set his season high, 8 strikeouts against the Rangers. Yeah. And then he's been just murdering one of the best offenses in baseball, the Astros. He just doesn't care. Yeah, I don't know what it is about guys that have good control and don't walk guys and just throw like a sinker in the zone. He throws a sinker as well. But yeah, it's like guys like that just the Astros are just like too patient or something. They'll just watch a bunch of like called strike sinkers from a guy who like can throw the ball in the zone and not throw it right down the middle. And then they'll just like not do well. It's like they don't get dominated by aces. They get dominated by guys like Cole Irvin, who are just like finesse guys who don't walk anybody. Exactly. He's only striking out 17% of guys this year, but he only walks 4.8% of guys. So that's literally all it is there. He just like, he doesn't induce weak contact. He doesn't get a lot of ground balls. He's just throwing strikes, and that always seems to get the Astros for some reason. And Cole Irvin capitalized in 3 of his 5 starts of the month facing them. So yeah, great job, Cole. maybe he'll get traded.
I wouldn't be surprised. Onto the strikeouts leaders. One of these guys might get traded. It's not going to be the first one. AL leader in strikeouts was the aforementioned Garrett Cole, the New York Yankees, with 51, and leading all of baseball and the NL was Carlos Rodon of the San Francisco Giants. Kind of had, I think it was a day or two ago, where he was hugging everybody in the bullpen. Potentially made his last start before the trade deadline for the San Francisco Giants. 53 strikeouts in the month of July. Giants kind of sitting around 500. A lot of rumblings. They might be buyers. They might be sellers. Nobody can really kind of figure them out yet. Farhan Zaidi's pretty much always got his cards tucked close to his chest. And he's just one of the better GMs in baseball. So we'll see what they do with Carlos Rodon. He'd have to fetch.
They got to trade him.
If they trade him, they'll get a pretty good return for him. He's been excellent this year.
Even if the Giants want to compete this year and obviously want to compete next year, he can opt out after this year. And because he reached a certain innings threshold, he's going to opt out. Like, there's no question about it. Like, he's only got one more year on his contract with the Giants, so he has to opt out. He's been so good this year. So the Giants need to get something out of him. I mean, they could even get guys that are going to be major league ready, so they could still have a chance at competing this year. He had 3 double-digit strikeout performances this month, and the other 3 were 7 strikeouts. So he was killing it. His best start was a 12 strikeout complete game with 1 earned run allowed against the Padres. Very, very cool. Love what he's been doing. He's made us look incredibly stupid. Please don't go back and watch our preseason podcasts where we just
kind of crapped all
faded
over
him. Yeah, faded him heavily until he signed with the Giants.
Yeah, we looked pretty bad on that one. But the injury history was so kind of jarring with him, and he's just kind of shaking it off. Just like, nah, I think I won't get injured anymore. And I think I'm going to strike out everybody that I face. So, yeah, Rodon almost certainly going to be traded at the deadline. Onto the F4 leaders. Leading the AL in F4 is Houston Astros' Justin Verlander. It seems like he's been on here several times. Leading the AL in F4 with 1.3. And then
he's leading baseball in ERA, so I mean it makes a lot of sense.
Yep. And then on the NL side, Max Scherzer, the return of Mad Max, 1.5 F4 in the month of July. Yeah, I mean 2 Hall of Famers right here. I don't know what else you could ask for.
Exactly. They will both be in the Hall of Fame for sure. Verlander having one of his best seasons of his career, returning from Tommy John surgery at the age of 39. What the heck? What kind of sentence is that? That's almost as weird as the Colorado Rockies extend 37-year-old closer having the best year of his career in Colorado, throwing 97 miles per hour. Nonetheless, Verlander has sort of dealt with diminished stuff this year and just has kept going. He leads baseball, like I said, 1.81 ERA. He's got the second best whip at 0.87. He doesn't walk anybody, strikes out around 25% of guys. Everything else is pretty solid. He's 12th in baseball with 124 innings pitched, and his 14-3 record is best in baseball. He's got the most wins. So he just doesn't stop. He won't slow down. Age will not stop him. Tommy John surgery won't stop him. He may pitch until he's 45. He may pull a Nolan Ryan. He is one of the best pitchers of all time, and that this is just cementing that for sure. It wasn't really a question. He was getting there, but this season just shows hey, nothing's going to slow this guy down. Your Hall of Fame resume features Kate Upton is my wife. I don't know, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, gotta agree with you there. Yeah, both of these guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame when all things are said and done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very well deserving.
Yeah, Scherzer's been crazy.
Yeah. We normally go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, he returned from the IL and after missing 2 months this season, and he just immediately went off, struck out 11 batters with only 2 hits allowed in that first start, and then struck out 9, and then struck out 11 more in the next start, and then he just won't stop. It doesn't matter how old he's getting. He is 38 himself, and he is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's sporting one of the highest strikeout rates of his career. It's pretty incredible to see these guys at this age after such long, impressive careers do what they've been doing, but you love to see it. You love to see it.
Absolutely. Normally we would go over the players of the month, hitters, pitchers, rookies of the month, relievers.
For freaking 2 hours and 18 minutes, and that wasn't long enough for them.
But they haven't posted it, so we can't do that today. We'll potentially check in on that next podcast. We'll go to the standings check-in for the American League. In the American League, leading the entire league in wins by 2. New York Yankees kind of been there all year. They're 69 and 34, trailed very closely by the Houston Astros, who are 67 and 36. The worst team in the entirety of the AL. I almost said all of baseball. That's not right. The Oakland Athletics are a disgusting 39 and 65. They're not very good. Division leaders, of course, the Yankees. The Twins are leading the AL Central. That's pretty close. The Guardians are 1 game back. The White Sox are 2 games back. That math's right. The White Sox 2 games back. Houston up by a mile in the AL West, but Seattle pretty big front runner there for one of the wild card spots, 55 and 48. Moving on to the National League, pretty close race in the NL East there. The Mets are 64 and 37. The Braves are 62 and 41. It's just 2 games behind there win-wise. Washington also at the bottom of the NL East and the bottom of the NL entirely with a disgusting 35 and 68 record. They are horrible. While I'm on the worst team, I might as well say the best team. The Dodgers are the best team in the NL right now, 68 and 33. They're also obviously pacing their division. They're 11 games up over the Padres. And then in the NL Central, the Brewers, who just traded Josh Hader, are 57 and 45, trailed pretty closely by the 54 and 48 St. Louis Cardinals. Cubs are in 3rd place. They're still in 3rd place. They're still doing it, man. They're still in contention. Buy at the deadline.
Barely. Either one of those last 3 teams in the NL Central could end up in last place. But I've got breaking news to interrupt this standings check-in. Christian Vasquez traded from the Boston Red Sox to the Houston Astros. Not sure what the return is, but Astros have had terrible performances from their catchers all year. We talked about this when we were talking about Wilson Contreras in our personal messages between each other. So pretty interesting to see him go to the Red Sox. Or to the Astros. It's pretty self-explanatory. They got
playing a series this week too, so really? they're in Houston, and Christian Vasquez will just stay there. So,
well, this is just the start of the Red Sox sell-off. They're in last place in the AL East. I predicted them in this baseball application I was doing to be the next team to rebuild. So, I mean, it's looking like that. It's crazy that they're in last place, not the Orioles. Love what they've been doing. But yeah, Yankees, best record in baseball. Not much to say there. They've been doing it all year. The AL East is the toughest division by far. AL Central is very, very close. The Twins, Guardians, and White Sox. Any one of those could miss the playoffs. Any one of those could win the division. It's going to be a fun race through the end of the season. The Tigers and the Royals sort of fighting with the A's for what's the opposite of supremacy? Just the worst
ineptitude.
Yeah, exactly. They're fighting for the title of most inept baseball team in the American League, as all of them have just been terrible. Unfortunately, the worst one right now is the Oakland A's, and they just lost their ace and their closer. So you can only imagine that's just going to keep getting worse. And then the Astros obviously been doing great. Love to see the Mariners moving their way up. They're 55 and 48, and so that would put them above the Rays. That puts them above. I mean, that's a better record than the Twins. They have been really good. It looks like they're going to finally make the playoffs for the first time in 20 plus years. And then in the National League, you said New York team's been ruling baseball this year. The Braves are backing up their World Series championship. The Phillies are finally looking like they might do something. The Nationals are just absolutely horrible. I don't know how they're so bad when they have Juan Soto. It's like you remove Juan Soto and Josh Bell and Nelson Cruz from that team, it's just going to be like a AA team, not even AAA. They're like so bad. It's like when you look at the Angels lineup and you're just like, how are they so bad? And then you take out Taylor Ward, Jared Walsh, Mike Trout, and Shohei Ohtani, and you're just like, oh, that's why. That's what the Nationals lineup is right now and what it's probably going to be at the end of the deadline. Even if they keep Juan Soto, they're going to be terrible because they've been terrible with him. And NL Central, very interesting. Those last 3 teams are all really bad. It's crazy that remember how bad the Reds started off? They had like 6 wins in April, and now they're at 40 and 61. They've really turned it around. I mean, they haven't been horrible. I mean, they've been bad this season, but they haven't been like throw up bad, where especially with the way that they started at like a historically terrible pace. Love to see that. They could be a fun team in a few years if they don't trade everybody off. And then obviously NL West should be pretty interesting with the Padres adding Josh Hader and probably adding some more guys. The Dodgers are the second best team in baseball. Hate to see it. And the Giants are 500, so they could really go either way. They could still make the playoffs. They could also just sell off some guys and sort of try to go for next year. But yeah, I mean, that's the that's the month in review. That's the trade deadline review. We went for almost 2.5 hours again. It's been a crazy past month. I mean, our month in review for our podcast would be pretty crazy. We've just had like so many 2+ hour episodes across the past month, and I hope everybody's been enjoying them. It gives you a lot of content to listen to. I know it may take a long time. Listen to it on 1.5 times speed. I listen to podcasts on 2 times speed, not my own. I listen to 1.5 because I talk really fast. But yeah, if you need to go back, listen to 1.5 times speed, or just tune in live, hang out with us, be like drunk commenting. Yeah, exactly. Write it out. It's a homework assignment. You have to be here next Monday. Be like drunk. Be in the comments. We'll interact with you. We'll answer your questions. We'll throw you up on the screen if you need shout outs. We can shout you out or whatever. We don't have too many viewers, so not sure how well those shout outs will do. But yeah, I mean, that's the majority of our podcast right there. You got any thoughts before we do what we do every week and bring in the closer?
Nope. Just make sure you check back with us every Monday at 4. That time will probably actually change due to some
we're going to be doing life 5 probably in the future.
Yeah, probably 5. We have to. Maybe we'll change the day. We'll figure it out. Just stay with us. You can check for updates there at on both of our social medias, which we'll plug at the end after we bring in the closer.
And they're right there.
Yeah, you just look at them right there. They're on the screen.
Yeah.
But also check out the Athletes Hub. Read all of Jake's stuff. He's going to tell you about this sweet closer that I know is near and dear to his heart.
Yes,
so I'm going to hand it over to Jake. I'm going to give him the bullpen phone. It's right here. I'm just handing it through the mic, or not the mic, the camera. Right. I said that last time too. So here you go, Jake.
All right, here we go. It's extra innings of free baseball. We've got free baseball going right now. It's clearly extra innings. We're almost 2.5 hours in. So we got to bring in the closer to shut this podcast down. This week, as we do every week, we're bringing in a new closer. This time it's Rob Nen, who had a 10-year career from 1993 to 2002, during which he pitched for the Texas Rangers, the Florida Marlins, and the San Francisco Giants. He was drafted by those Texas Rangers in the 32nd round of the 1987 draft. He didn't debut until 6 years later in April of 1993, where he faced the Red Sox, and he tossed a couple of innings. He allowed 3 hits. He also watched 2 runners cross home and walked 3 guys and struck out a batter. So it wasn't the greatest of debuts. He struggled with injuries and ineffectiveness in his debut season, which was just a half season for the Rangers. He had a 6.35 ERA and 22 2/3 innings pitched. He started 3 of those 9 games he appeared in, but he was traded to the Marlins midseason. And he also didn't pitch well. He actually pitched worse. He had a 7.02 ERA in 33 1/3 innings pitched. He started 1 of the 15 games he appeared in for the Marlins. And, that was his rookie season. Wasn't great. If you look at, what his pitch repertoire was like, how he pitched, he had a weird delivery that featured a toe tap, so he was keeping guys off balance and stuff, which was cool. His signature pitch was a slider, which was nicknamed the Terminator. It came in around 92 miles per hour, which is crazy for the time. Just imagine like Jacob deGrom out there closing out games for the Marlins. Very cool. He featured an upper 90s fastball and a splitter as well. So he had some great stuff. He was moved to the bullpen in his first full season with the Marlins, and he was closer by the year's end. It was the shortened 1994 season, the strike shortened season. So he only tossed 58 innings with a 2.95 ERA and 15 saves. He would have had a really good season if it had been a full season. But then he really got to prove his talents over the next 3 years and was one of the elite closers in baseball in his time in Florida. 1995, he led the National League with 54 games finished. He did that across 65 2/3 innings pitched with a 3.29 ERA and 23 saves. He followed that up in 1996 with his best season in Florida, 83 innings with a 1.95 ERA and 35 more saves. And then 97, the year I was born, he tossed 74 innings, had a 3.89 ERA, and closed out 35 more games. And that year, the Marlins also won the World Series. So that was the only time he ever won the World Series. It wasn't the only time he ever pitched in the World Series. We'll get to that. But the following season, prior to 1998, the Marlins had their weird post-World Series fire sale where they sold like everybody that led them to that championship. And that sent Nen to my San Francisco Giants. for the 1998 season, and he made his first All-Star team that year in San Francisco in 1998. He tossed 88 and 2/3 innings pitched with a 1.52 ERA, incredible, a 0.95 WHIP, and 40 saves. That was his career high at the time. He would surpass it shortly later. His second All-Star team came the following season in 1999, where he led the National League again with 64 games finished. He tossed 72 and 1/3 innings pitched with a near 4 ERA, 3.98, and he saved 37 more games. He's just been incredible across the last 5 or 6 seasons or so. And then he said, you know what, I can even turn it up a notch. In 2000, the turn of the century, he had his best season. He had tossed 66 innings. He had a career low 1.50 ERA and a career low 0.85 WHIP. That came with 41 saves. That was his career high at the time. And he finished 4th in NL Cy Young Award voting and 12th in NL MVP voting. I think that year the MVP was Jeff Kent. But yeah, I mean, it was an incredible season for him. He didn't make an All-Star team somehow, even though it was his best season. And he continued that success into 2001. He led the majors this time with 71 games finished, tossed 77 and 2/3 innings with a 3.01 ERA and a career high and NL leading 45 saves. And I mean, after he had 3 years of dominance in San Francisco, the Giants fans nicknamed the 9th inning, the final inning of the game, they nicknamed it the 9th after Rob Nen. The 9th inning, he would come in and shut the game down just like he is doing right here for our podcast. And then somehow, after having 3 great seasons, he had one more great season in 2002, just continued pushing along. His 3rd All-Star appearance came that year as well. He tossed 73 and 2/3 innings with a 2.20 ERA and 43 more saves, the second most in his career. But this would be the last season of his career. Surprisingly, he jeopardized his career pitching in the playoffs, just going ham. He pitched in a playoff record 8 save opportunities in that 2002 postseason, securing 7 of them. And unfortunately, the Giants didn't go on to win the World Series. That was the only time Barry Bonds was in the World Series. So it was pretty disappointing to see that one go by the wayside as the Angels won that year. And he dealt with a torn rotator cuff after that season that kept him out for the next 2 years. And that was a lot of a result of him being pushed super hard in that playoffs, which fans loved him for. They were like, oh my God, you're amazing. I'm just realizing right now, I got to set my fantasy lineup. It's literally game's about to start in 1 minute, but he retired a year later after not making it back into the major leagues, which was very disappointing for him and probably many others. But he gave his arm for the bag. He did his best, and it was great to see him do what he did for the Giants in that postseason. His 206 saves that he finished that season with, that he ended the season with as a Giant, were the most in franchise history. And then he also had the 8th most of saves of all time when he retired, and he just had 32. He had only 32 by the end of his career, which was pretty crazy. And Reds acquiring. They're trading Tommy Pham to an unknown contender. Acquiring team unknown. What the heck? But yeah, so he retired with the 8th most saves of all time. His career, he had a 15 BWAR, 715 innings pitched, 793 strikeouts, a 314 saves, and a 2.98 ERA and a 1.213 WHIP. That was the 25th most saves of all time, which is pretty incredible. He had a great career. Sorry, I'm double tasking right now. My lineup's about to be what's it called when you have too many minor leaguers? It's about to be not allowed. I'm gonna get 0 points for the week if I didn't set my lineup. So that's it. That's Rob Nen's career. It was very crazy. Unfortunately, it ended way too short because he pitched so often in that postseason, but he still had a crazy career. 314 saves is incredible. But yeah, what a podcast. We've done it again, Davis. We set a world record.
Marathon pod today. But check back with us next week. We'll probably switch it to 4, or not to 4. We'll switch it to 5. Just check back in. Make sure you follow all of our socials. I'm Davis Bird. You can check me out on Twitter at DVSBird. Jake Crumpler, it's pretty easy to find him. You can just find him at Jake Crumpler on Twitter. Read all of his stuff at Baseball HQ. Read all of his stuff at Pitcher List. If you read stuff for fantasy sports, if you like anything fantasy baseball, if you just like baseball, he makes great baseball content. Read all of his stuff. Check out everything at theathleteshub.org. They, of course, sponsor our show. Just check out everyone over there. They make a lot of great content. about all sports, even if you're like drunk and you say, oh, I'm a casual baseball fan, whatever. Got football, got baseball, got basketball, got everything.
Got a lot to learn too.
Wrestling.
And
Absolutely.
you got a lot to learn, and you can learn it from me and Davis, especially on this podcast every single week.
Absolutely. So check back with us, hang with us. We're going to cover out the rest of the baseball season. Of course, we're going to switch into the off season. We'll talk about baseball year round. But that's all we got for today. We'll just close out this marathon pod like Rob Nin would have done, and what would have probably amounted to like the 24th inning. So just check back in with us next week. That's all we got for today.